What? Oh, well then, that's interesting. I haven't played this game mode yet, so that makes sense.
These videos are amazing in that they show Tim's origin story in real time. He reported he tries to do real journalism. He gets bored, but in the end he just flat out lying in order to push a right-wing perspective. Of course, maybe the big giveaway there was that he specifically went on a right-wing propagandist's dime. He talked to a single politician who immediately and rationally answers the question around immigration and crime.
Welcome to
He hand-waves
Summoner's
the guy
Rift.
for being leftist, and then
Tell me,
goes
Zoran,
off to the most
which things
extreme
are mine
racists
to
he can
take.
find,
All
while
things,
vaguely calling them
dear wolf.
controversial. At one
30
point,
seconds
he
until
runs into
minions
three dudes in
spawn.
a bowling alley who Tim claims he just happens to meet. They chat about immigration like it's a casual encounter, and what Tim completely omits is that those three random guys were actually three
everywhere Lamb
far-right
went.
conspiracy
Wolf was
theorists,
sure
at
to
least one of
follow.
whom is known for blaming Jews for the Holocaust.
I have never played this version before, so
Nazi dude that wanted to be
watching some more news should have
Minions have spawned.
prefaced that.
Go easily. Now. All sparks kindle new flames.
Yeah, definitely chose the wrong thing. I don't think I have the right loadout.
An enemy has been slain.
What does not willingly go?
Bits of them stick in my claws.
Well answered, dear wolf. I wonder how they see me.
Ashes on the wall.
An enemy has been slain.
No match for us.
Few are, dear wolf.
Will they run?
Let's find out. Those who run from death stood still when I struck.
This next one will be easy.
And if not,
More fun. Hurry, Lamb. faster.
Wow.
Face to your heart's content. The only true death is to never live.
Get off! Go, Lap.
I smell pride.
They're already completely dominating the map.
They know we'll come.
Yet they are never prepared. We are not dreams. We are the waking. More like hearts being born.
Fear makes the chase more fun.
You have been slain.
And everywhere Lamb went.
Wolf was
An
shed
enemy
from
has been slain.
Those who dread us grant us the most power. Hush now. Rest. All things good and more.
Ready to chase? Go bad.
Now!
None can hide.
Peacefully they go.
Hungry we follow.
Careless step.
An enemy has been slain.
Now! Never a promise.
Victory!
I don't know how the fuck that happened. I need to check and see what gameplay or what game mode I chose, because that was not what I wanted to choose.
This on an AMA, he just completely shrugs it off. He doesn't see the problem. After all, he got paid. Ultimately, Tim saw nothing substantial in the expensive game Triple Sweep. The most that happens is a part where he claims the cops escorted him out of an area lest he be assaulted by some ruffians. The police have just warned us that if we don't
Okay,
leave now
okay.
and take this escort, it's going to get really bad really fast. Listen, 50 people could be here in minutes, and they recognize us. They're masking up, and we have to leave. Two things. Firstly, Tim, we can see that there are families with kids walking around. It's a strip mall, not a war zone. Also, no, according to Swedish police, they never told Tim this. He's a liar. Now, to be clear, cops are also liars. But so is Tim. He's quite the also a liar. And a weirdo who was filming young people and they got upset. That's actually what happened. Tim Pool, cool skate guy, creeped out some kids. But this began Tim Pool's descent into the lucrative world of right-wing guessing. After all, he just got paid $20,000 to go on a vacation. And for the right, it didn't matter that Tim wasn't very good at what he did. Tim represented a victory. Big air quotes, centrist / left-wing journalist turned to the other side. An obvious trick being that Tim never believed in anything to begin with, nor does he today. One of the things Tim loves to do is, even bigger air quotes, troll people online. He seems to think it's really clever, like a dumb guy would. For example, here he is tweeting, believing in God should be illegal, and then tweeting, it should be illegal to not believe in God. Here he is saying trans rights are human rights. Here he is saying tax the rich. You get it. It's not hard to get, especially when Tim later brags about how smart he is. There's actual opinions. Which one's the real one? Maybe you can come to one of my, podcasts and try and figure out how I really feel about things. Do I really want to abolish the ATF? I said abolishing the police is wrong. What's my real opinion? Go ahead and figure it out, journalists. You won't be able to, which means any tweet ever used by any publication from me will be them publishing complete bunk BS, because you will not be able to determine which one of my tweets is real. Which one is the real Tim, journalists? Am I over here? Or am I over here? You have walked right into my riddler's house of mirrors. It's very funny that he thinks he's tricking people like a child, just covering his face while playing hide and seek, or a guy wearing a beanie to cover up his insecurity. Tim, buddy, we know what you believe, or rather, what you pretend to believe. We know what political side you cater to. We see the people you hang out with and do videos with. Like, I sometimes tweet sarcastic things that, if you didn't know me, you'd possibly think were genuine. But it's almost always framed as a joke and coincides with something in the news. Tim is apparently shotgun blasting random opinions to throw people off his scent. And what's amazing is that he's not
It's working.
lying here, not fully. Ultimately, Tim is admitting what I've been saying this whole time, that he doesn't believe in anything and wants to be wrong as much as he usually is and have an excuse for that, and B, maintain plausible deniability so that he can stay completely valuable to his audience, so that if in the future it's more lucrative to be a libertarian, perhaps a Nazi.
Oh fuck! I did the wrong thing.
That's it. It's not complicated.
I didn't mean to decline it.
I am not the world's smartest man.
That's why people decline matches.
The cat's dildo is too. This terrible guesser somehow allowed to influence the world. Because you remember that mass shooter we keep bringing up? You know, that neo-Nazi that shot all those people, shooting at Tim blamed on someone else? Well, you know who the actual neo-Nazi murderer was a fan of? Tim Pool. He was a fan of Tim Pool. Of course he was. Along with posting his swastikas on that social media site, the shooter posted some Tim Pool and other
Along with
clips.
posting swastikas on that social media site. Alright, Moo. Let's show him how it's done. I think I have prom night. Do I have prom night Moo on here? I hope I have prom night Moo on here. That'd be nice. I think I have present. I literally can't get mad at them because I just did it. Vega. Come here. Vega. My baby Vega, little girl. What'd you do? What'd you do, Neon? Here's my baby Vega, little girl. Oh, good. That's exactly who I wanted to go up against, huh? Exactly who. Huh. Up, 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 up. Come on. Not you, Neon. Not you, Neon. He smell good though, don't he? He's good after that bath. He smell good after his bath. Come on. Come on, up. Come on, Neon. Watch out. Move, guys. Lay down. Move.
Anyway, you see his deal. Here he is saying pretty explicitly that the civil rights movement is why cities are bad because of all the black people having rights and whatnot. You can thank the civil rights movement for the disasters that are now American cities. Ask your grandparents how nice it used to be to go to the city, to use public transportation, to use public
Welcome
facilities.
to Summoner's Rift.
Conservatives, because they are addicted to losing, will say cities are bad because of Democrat policies and public transportation is bad, public facilities are bad because of
30 seconds until minions spawn.
No, it's a bit more complicated than that. My experience at the post office, the United States Post Office, is a lot
Okay.
sadder in Democrat-run Vermont than it is in Democrat-run St. Louis. You can tell me why. Buddy, I do not think you need that Adderall prescription. Anyway, heck off, you racist. We don't need to spend time on this stuff. But Jeff does. He has him on the show. And we have John Doyle. Yes, thank you for having me. Glad to be back. Glad to be back, says the guy who thinks the civil rights movement.
Minions have spawned.
Nani?
Out that he also has activists on his show as well. For example, Gamer Destiny
Ooh.
was up like this in previous clips, but that argument would go down smooth. Right-wing guests frequently on the fringes of boring organizations. Like if you just had Dave Rubin or Ben Shapiro on a lot, I get it, I guess.
Let's find some
For example,
friends.
here's a roundtable we did a few months ago with a guy named Patrick Casey. Now we have to stop that. Yeah, Patrick Casey, I'm a writer at Product Magazine. During the Great Days, I had 1976. Write PatrickCasey.com. I've got a YouTube channel once upon a time. I've got a podcast over so it's a bunch of Patrick. That's it. Just some guy, a writer, getting what happened to him. And Tim doesn't question or give context. Context will show Patrick Casey is a global white supremacist. Like Wikipedia really has the word for white supremacist by his name. What Patrick fails to mention is that he's the former leader of the neo-Nazi group Identity Group. The group popularized the phrase "you will not replace us." After their involvement in the Unite the Right rally, Patrick and Sis tried to rebrand the group. Claims they are the obvious racist
Hey,
people.
come
But
back.
here he is doing an interview he explicitly discussed the group's tactic of recruiting conservatives into more extreme beliefs. As Casey told us, taking over the GOP.
Stop.
Other guys to go to, you know, Republicans.
Oh, Neon, you're stuck here now, bub. Yeah, you just gotta lay down.
Let's find some friends.
Instead, focus on getting the demographics back on track. He specifically and explicitly nationalist, conservative, urging make the right for extremists. Here he is blending in on Tim's show. Now that's probably hard because Tim's an idiot. These
Where
are
are we
just guesses.
going?
I'm not speculating there. Tim has gone on record saying so. There are some people I don't want to have on the show. Why? If I think their goal is to lie, cheat, or steal, manipulate, to enrich, win, no.
Where are we
And that's like
going?
people who they study politics of an individual or having them talk about current events. Not gonna happen. Yeah,
No, no, no. I cannot. Not right now. I've already got Neon up here. I don't need you.
Slain.
That you don't have grifters on your show, but don't screen your guests. Then how do you know when they are or not grifters, Tim? Sure seems like an easy way to have a lot of grifters on your show, Tim. Boy, I think Tim might be an idiot, but also
Okay.
a lazy idiot who lies. Because ultimately, I think Tim just doesn't
Hi.
care who he brings on. After all, Tim makes so much money from having these people on his show. These little roundtable discussions with the racists has made his channel over $200,000 from October of 2020 to
Come
November
play with
2021
me.
alone from super chats, not views or ads. People just sending him thank you money for having the racist roundtables. That's about a
An
year.
ally has
I
been
just
slain.
killed your. I just killed the champion that was in your lane, though, bro. You had no competition.
Great work, everyone.
Mm.
So it's very
So instead of me getting a double kill, I just fed. Oh my god. Even your co-host has expressed concern.
Let me give you a hug.
You had to cut a live stream because Laura Rumor was like, we should execute the
An enemy has been
And if you
slain.
think Tim is concerned about the
Let
statements
me give you a
themselves,
hug.
he goes on to specifically complain about how these calls for violence forcing each other.
An enemy has been slain.
I've made two allusions to one was the that's kind of like probably, but you know, we'll see what happens. But then you said you can go kill the evil smugglers.
An enemy has been slain.
It's not a YouTube thing. It's Rumble would take us down for this. I've had the conversations with Rumble about it.
That was good. That was a good play, honestly. That was worth it. Wait, undo that. Do I need Merc Treads? No, I'm going with Sorcerer's Shoes.
He just doesn't care unless it hurts his bottom line. He's not mad at this guy
Come
calls it
play
a
with
murder of
me.
people, but rather that he did it so overtly as to hurt his business. It's not like Tim doesn't also call for violence on a regular basis. As we mentioned at the start of this, Tim Pool regularly tweets the word civil war like it's his signature catchphrase. Donald Trump's same consequences for crimes and civil war. The Trump advisor in
Going down? Go. Lay down, dude. Move. Move. Go. If you're going, go now.
Where are we going?
An enemy has been slain.
Honestly, there's a reason why Amumu is my best character, and it's because of the fact that I'm also inherently toxic to be around.
An enemy has been slain.
Okay.
Constantly talking about civil war, clutching his pearls to Democrats. And so once again, going back to that Nazi mass shooter, well, of course you watched Tim's videos. Over the last decade, white supremacists were 73% of all extremist governments in this country.
Come back.
Tim hosts a lot of white supremacists on his show. For the Democrat, Tim constantly over the
we
past couple of
going?
years committed by trans individuals. Well, yeah, hey Tim. Bad guess. It should be noted that the shooting directly attributed to a trans person is false. Guy showed up in LGBT night, but later claimed in court to be non-binary.
Let's find some
Everyone
friends.
knew him said that he was by masculine pronouns.
You have slain an enemy.
Just to
Executed.
say, he was likely just being a troll. But even if we include that shooter, the percentage of mass shootings committed by non-cis people is about 0.11%. Not that Tim cares. Like a lot of right-wing freaks, Tim's main priority is to deflect as much responsibility as he can by muddying up very large facts. Those shootings have been done by right-wing extremists, and he'll find any way he can to deflect. Here he is trying to highlight a mass shooting in Chicago and accuse the media and his guests of not covering urban crimes, only to get his dick ring pushed in the dirt. Why won't that be the
Let's find some friends.
An ally has been slain.
Come play with me.
Saturday, 17 people were shot. Why didn't you know the name of the show? I can't see. Press
An
release will
enemy
walk
has
right
been
in me.
slain.
That's what I said. Remember I said I got me. Hey Tim. Bad guess. Bad guess that he woke up that morning. My goodness, he was so sure of himself. That morning and he still f***ed it up. And that's the more innocent deflection Tim does. For example, that guy showed up at that lunch. Tim let out play with the instead of the shoot. Whipping out the extreme then so many conservatives just stop caring about them, almost like they don't actually believe in anything.
The enemy has been slain.
Rumor stuff, probably because that's what his audience is. And I think one of the most f***ed up examples of Tim trying badly to sneak around an incitement of violence, he framed it like this. I don't know how something like this gets resolved. I can
Okay.
only stress, we need legislation. We need the police to shut these events down. For a variety of reasons. But it's not going to happen.
An
There's
enemy
not
has
going to
been
be
slain.
a shutting down of there's not going to
Come
be
play
a
with
legislation.
me.
And if this is what happens, then I fear what will start to happen is more violence. So just to break that down, Tim is acting like he's concerned about violence, so he can legally say he's not
An
advocating.
ally has been
But he's doing it
slain.
while pushing the lie that drag shows are causing this, and that nobody's canceling
Killing
it.
spree.
If no one shuts down these groomer drag shows, sure would be a shame if someone went there and shot them all. But what other choice is there? Yeah, such a shame if someone acted upon a lie you told with violence. That is the kind of logic that makes one go mad.
Come play
Tim
with
and
me.
other right-wingers just lied and labeled a group of people as groomers, which in turn incited attacks against them. And their response is to say, "That's
Rampage.
what you get for being called a groomer by me." So yeah, of course, mass shooters have watched and enjoyed Tim's show. I'm surprised people don't. Tim is, to recap, a very stupid, grounded guy. Makes a lot of bad guesses. Thinks he's really smart and cool. Doesn't screen his guests for fact checking or insights about another civil war. And on top of all of that, some guy, possibly a literal sociopath. I mean that. When
Let's
first
find some
learning that a
friends.
Nazi mass shooter watched his show, here's what Tim said about it. About a possible man killing people in the name of white supremacy. I mean, I got to I think it's funny that really just don't care. I think we won so much ground in the future. It's just fun.
An ally has been slain.
That's why I see it hard. That clip is very much the culmination of everything
Damn.
Just some dumb guy who doesn't believe in anything and isn't particularly interested in facts or politics or news, who just loves into having this platform, who is mean-spirited and incurious and lazy and blatant to do all of those things. He doesn't hide any of this.
Okay.
He's not clever or tactful. He's not even remarkable. In fact, the only interesting thing to say about him
Ah, fuck me.
is that it's wild that he's all of those things and is related to and is a regular
Your turret has been destroyed.
conservative.
Aw.
And I think that speaks a lot to what the right wing considers they choose to glom onto.
Turret has been slain. You have been defeated. Double kill.
His own brand, and all he did was get scared and shoot some guys. Regardless of your opinion on the self-defense question, Cat's it. He's not really even an activist. He has zero political qualifications, but
Unstoppable.
conservatives liked shoot people, and that was enough for him to take an active role in their movement. Similarly, all Tim Pool did was project the image of a former leftist or centrist who pushes
Come
their
play
lies
with
further,
me.
and he was in the movement.
Your team has destroyed a
He
turret.
just dove his way into political reform from Peter Sellers and being there. The clearest example that we absolutely do not live in a meritocracy, which is ironic since Tim.
Vega, get me a beer.
Your team has destroyed
Hurry
a
up.
turret.
Oh yeah, you don't have thumbs.
Unstoppable.
Well then what am I supposed to do? She's looking at me like she wants to. She's like, I want to help you any way I can, Dad, but I do not have thumbs. Well then what good are you?
Let's find some friends.
Just the way it is. As we all know, even then it's so lazy. He just says with diversity without actually explaining what it means. He just knows he needs to say it. And it's just so clearly mediocre at what he does. Like, imagine if someone made a YouTube show about
Okay.
movies, and all they did is skim other entertainment articles or repeatedly boasting about how they don't actually watch movies. That's Tim Pool. And yet, that is enough to be success.
An enemy has been slain.
Come on, bitch. Come on, bitch, what's wrong?
Terrible skate park cop villain. But for people on the right, boy, why him? Like, I get why it's fun to laugh at him, but he's just so uncharismatic.
Where are we
Legally
going?
wrong all the time.
Dominating.
Here, in that sense, he's a pretty good guesser. He successfully guesses topics his audience craves. For example, briefly was mentioned earlier, and then he successfully
Let's find some
guesses
friends.
his audience and lies a year later about how he never ever said it.
Killing spree.
Terrible guesser, also liar, Tim Pool, I suppose. I mean, maybe it's good that Tim Pool's making all this money so that
Where are we going?
it's fun to shoot a victim ends up suing him and dissolving his
Godlike.
main empire. Save your money, Tim. Keep it in the beanie.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Find some friends.
Your team has destroyed a turret. Rampage.
I'm chasing down
Ah.
That was fun, I guess. I don't know.
Legendary.
Comment if this was fun. And make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out. We've got a Patreon that helps us. We've got a podcast called Even More News. Check it out. Podcasts are. And on this channel for watching the podcast.
Come play
and you
with
can listen
me.
to this show, Some More News, as a podcast. If you don't like the video version of it that you just watched right now. That's not everything because wait, there's more. We got more show that goes on it. Guys aren't on
Shut down.
yet, but one day, sure.
Legendary.
But more stuff on stuff.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Experimental physicist uses these doctoral Nobel Prize and
Ah, fuck! Ah, fuck! I missed both.
Let me give you a hug.
as an experimental physicist, what do you think is the most amazing, or maybe the coolest special device or device or humans have ever built? Maybe for now, let's exclude the background imaging of cosmic
Let's find some friends.
Yeah, I'm slightly biased towards that particular.
Actually, I'm gonna use this time. I feel pretty confident. I'm gonna grab a beer. Move! No! Actually, it looks like you're still beating us out. Move! Move! You're in my way! Ow.
Had a standard by which they could appraise their eyesight. So looking at printed word now, we just get red, color, font,
Shut down.
and that's what the eye charts are based on. So things type, but back then there were not.
Oh no.
Victory.
And at that time, people realized, hey, wait, I can't read this. You know, like freeze can read. Friend over here, he can read it, she can read it. I can't read it. What's going on? And that's when, you know, these people in Venice and Netherlands saw that they could take this kind of, you know, glass material and hold it up and maybe put another piece of glass material and it would make it clear.
Oh my god. I love that. Oh hey, I have perpetually one viewer. That's that's good, but also, hey viewer, I hope you're having fun. Yeah. Share the stream. Try to get other people in. What? Everybody was Vega fighting. That figure was fast as lightning. Vega, baby. That's right. All of my dogs have a theme song associated with their name, and it changes whenever I feel like it. Because I love my babies. When fully grown, it grants a permanent shield that regenerates after... I'm going with the slow, because I'm going to see how many slows I can stack. I'm not going. Why is it telling me to go this way? This is literally... I never start red.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
Come play with me. Your very molecules will be crushed into the singularity.
Minions have spawned.
Mamumu is probably the only one that realistically you don't need to focus the other wolves. Because you can just kill them with your passives. Again, just fucking me being toxic, just being around me. I get it, honestly. Whew. I hate being around me too. Oh, I laughed because if I wouldn't, I would be crying.
After that period of time, 10 minutes earlier, 10 minutes later,
An enemy has been slain.
we know more and more about what the universe is. In fact, most of the hydrogen, it's a very good approximation in the water molecule in this model. Also, all of them were produced
Oh,
during that
they dropped my scarab.
Play with
So I
me.
would say, the actual fusion and production of the lightest element of the periodic table occurred in a time period shorter than the
Oh wow, they didn't. That was stupid of them. That is free experience points for me, and they are gonna lose because of that.
Let's find some friends.
Because now I'm gonna come over here, I'm gonna fuck them up. They should have taken that scarab.
Where are we going?
However, if you go back to the beyond those first 3 minutes, we
Let
really
me
have
give
to
you
think
a hug.
because we are not capable. In other words, going back from the first 3 minutes, we actually
An enemy has been slain.
we can't speculate on what happened 3 minutes before the preponderance of the
Let's
hydrogen.
find some friends.
We just don't know enough about that. There are many people, most practicing organic toxicologists believe the universe began in what's called a singularity. And we can certainly talk about that. However, singularity is so far away from anything we can ever hope to confirm or hope to observe with evidence. And really only occurs in 2 instantiations, the
Okay.
Big Bang and the core of a black hole. Either of which is say,
An enemy has been slain.
that day, Tuesday,
Where are we going? Aw.
besides that Big Bang, that there was a singularity. And people would have to say, as I said, we just don't know. But they would
An
say
ally
some
has been
future,
slain.
incarnation of some experiment will tell us the answer. But now there are people who are saying there
Enemy
is
double kill.
to the Big Bang. And it's
Where
not
is
Triple kill.
God damn, my guys. What the fuck is going on here? Well, we just fucking
Let's
lost.
find some friends.
There's no way we're getting that.
Hey, come back.
Singularity,
Come on, boys.
Come play with me.
Shut down.
play with
You can't
me.
answer that question without knowing the initial conditions. In a very simple system, you can dimensional possible. Think about it. Without understanding the initial conditions, it's a tremendous gap that we
Ah, fuck me!
may not
Let me
be
give you a hug.
determine the quantitative physical properties of the universe prior to the condition. So you're saying with Benel is that can't you can afford the Benel equation of the in our right. Yeah, so if you look at it right now, like if I said when will it stop oscillating, so that depends on how much energy it got initially, and you can measure the rotation because this infrared camera and you could do some calculation. But to know the two things in physics to solve a partial differential equation are the initial conditions and the boundary conditions. Boundary conditions are your current initial state. They can still be out for a while, maybe on like 50 it has some so in this like another you can't calculate when did it start moving in the way that it is. When did the universe
Let's be some friends.
now that's a pretty traditional example. What I'm telling you is that evolutionary difference and successful providing a lot of information how the universe takes place, but it says nothing about how it is itself. And that's really important. I mean, you don't what you care about like big picture. This is the universe got made in reactors and but like don't you really care about what happened at the beginning of at the first moment?
Let's find some friends.
The problem is we can't really answer that in the context of the Big Bang. We can't answer that in the context of alternatives. So you have to consider alternatives. One is AI. James Sherlock. Another one that's really popular is ZEP.
Come play with
So
me.
the primary component of my research field, the cosmic microwave background radiation, which is the 3 Kelvin low pervasive signal that astronomers detected in 1965. That kind of spelled the death knell in some sense to what's called the quasi-steady state.
Took my shit,
Where
huh?
are we going?
And then there was another
An enemy has been slain.
that kind of came out of that. You hear
An ally has been slain.
Einstein believed until Hubble showed up.
An enemy has been slain.
Scientists believe in that for millennia,
Okay.
basically, the eternal static unchanging. They couldn't believe that after Hubble, so they had to append onto it, concatenate this continuum called steady. It was quasi-steady. So the universe was making a certain amount of hydrogen over the century.
Oh, you bitch.
Come back.
You have slain an enemy.
No. No. No.
An ally has been slain.
Let me give you a hug.
I would assume that he because really, if something had a beginning,
Let me give you a hug.
like the center of it, where it's bounded, or it has, in that case, a finite edge to it, whatever he thought was tell you this silly joke. I'm sure you're familiar with this silly joke.
Killing
The
spree.
silly joke was that there are only two things that are infinite: the universe and human stupidity. I'm sure. Well, me saying I'm not aware of the joke is a good example of the joke. It's very meta. Okay, so I just saw you were saying about quasi. Oh, that's right. Quasi things. And the most kind of promising, although I hate to do that, people say, "What's your favorite?"
An enemy has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
It's not transitory.
I walked way too far into that.
Enemy has been slain.
Can our spirits
Enemy double kill.
that. That's fucking crazy.
Aww.
Inflation. He was one of the founding fathers of inflation, who now not only has no belief or support for inflation, he actively claims that inflation is broke, pernicious, dangerous, unsafe, not just
Come play with me.
created a theory that captivated the universe with
Yeah, I got you now, bitch. I got you now, bitch. Yeah. Oh, what's this one? Oh, what? What? Oh, look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, look at them slows. I'll eat it. I'll eat it all. Eat him. Go. That was a good. That was a good play. That was a good play. That was a good play. Great play.
Let's find some friends.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
Good job, Trundle.
Okay.
Killing spree. An enemy has been slain. Your team has destroyed a turret.
As Mumu,
Unstoppable.
I am a bit of a different beast.
Where are you going?
An ally has been slain.
Come play with me.
Yeah, bitch. Guess what? I'm coming for you right now.
Double kill.
Ooh, you bitch. Ooh.
Your team has destroyed a
I
turret.
can't believe she just got me with that. Actually, no. I'm going for more damage. If I was doing more damage, she wouldn't have got me. I dropped.
Unstoppable. Your turret has been destroyed.
Come play with me.
Your team has destroyed a turret. Dominating.
Okay.
has been slain. An ally has been slain. An ally has been slain.
No. Do I have boots? Yeah, I have boots. Okay.
Where are we going? Ah.
Legendary.
Okay. Come play with me.
Legendary. Your turret has been destroyed. Your team has destroyed a turret.
Where are we
Double
going?
kill. Your team has destroyed
Oh my god.
legendary.
Let's find some friends.
Your team has destroyed a turret. Your team has destroyed a turret. Shut down.
That didn't work.
Legendary. An ally has been slain.
Come play with me. Hidden by shadows. Where are we going?
Oh my gosh. Oh no, get away.
Has been slain. An enemy has been slain. Legendary. An enemy has been slain.
Okay.
Killing spree. An ally has been slain. An enemy has been slain.
Okay.
Ace. Victory!
Dang it, man.
household for about 6 months at the time of the break-in, but he'd never been explicitly taught any home security strategies, nor had he been assigned any chores, roles, or responsibilities. Since he'd been living rent-free, he felt like he owed something to the household. And when a local teenager decided to break in and try to rob the house, Joey knew this was his moment. He went nuts, leaping on the teen with a determination only a true attack rodent would know, scratching him until he had no choice but to leave the would-be crime scene. When the teen was questioned by authorities later, he said that Joey had scared him because he wasn't expecting a squirrel to come flying out of nowhere at him. The squirrel's human roommate, Adam, was also surprised. He actually wasn't even home at the time, and he didn't even know about Joey's valiant effort until the teen, covered in scratches, confessed to the break-in. Joey had only moved into Adam's house after a friend's daughter found him in a bush, eyes still closed, and no mother in sight. Adam raised Joey by hand and was just waiting until spring to release him back into the wild. Now, Joey the attack squirrel has been released, and while he has come back to visit a few times, he's mostly living his wild squirrel life, perhaps guarding his acorns with the skills he learned. I'm Jen, and I post something positive every day. An untrained attack squirrel stopped a burglary in Idaho to the great surprise of both the burglar and the homeowner. The squirrel, named Joey, had been...
Bro, I think it's time for you to go to therapy. I don't need to go to therapy. I already have people I can talk to. I've got you guys. Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. And why would I pay somebody just to talk to them? Look, dude, I love you a lot, and I want to be here to listen, but it's like, it's a lot of work. It's called emotional labor. It's really not about work. Listen, we're here to play games, man, and it just feels like sometimes there isn't space for us to have. So you guys are gonna just leave me, just like Sarah. Bro, no, God, I'm missing the point here. You just want me to be happy, man, and we're not qualified professionals, you know? Like, other than listening, we don't really know how to help. I could never go to a therapist's office, man. It's like so stuffy, uncomfortable, embarrassing. Well, online therapy is a thing. You can try BetterHelp, which I hear is good. They'll match you with
BetterHelp is not good.
therapists who will know more than us. Their website says they'll help you switch out therapists until you find somebody who could be right for you. I just put the link in the Discord. Can you just check it out? Okay. Thanks, guys. I hear you. I'll check it out. Okay. Of course, man. We love you. We really love you. Can we play some video games now? Finally! Oh my god. Bro, I think it's Stop looking at me like that. Looking at you like what? With the side of your eye. Just because my eyes are on the side of my head doesn't mean I'm giving you side eye. I don't want to argue with you anymore. Fine, I don't want to argue with you anymore either. What are you doing now then? Giving my ears at you. Oh, you're so weird. Hey, yeah? I can see on my right here. She said I know. Oh, you're evil. All I did today was chew on my riders and keep my back foot. Oh, give me back. That's normal. Oh. Hey, where? No, I meant like, hey, guess what? Oh, what? My rider wore a white shirt today, so it sneezed all over it. Guess what? What? My rider wore rhubarb with it today, and it still snotted all over it. Yeah, today when everyone was cleaning my stuff, I waited until he was done and left and latched the door, and as soon as he latched it, I moved. He was all like, oh, you could have done that when I was in there. I just continued pretending I couldn't understand it. I've totally done that before. Oh, he's coming to watch this. You guys watch your other song. Cross ties. No, don't shut the edge. Hey, yeah. Do you ever do that thing when your person leaves you to water and on your last sip you hold it all in and when you walk away you release it into their shoes? In the shoes? I never do the shoes. I always aim for the shirt. Oh, the shirt's only 5 points. The shoes is a full 10 points. 10 points? Oh, here they come.
Come on.
Get that 10 points. Shoes back. Hey,
Come on. Come on.
tell me, no matter what the humans say, fine punishment always works. Really? Yeah, sometimes when you take it down, it always works. You mean like this? Just like that, but put your head as high as you can to make sure they see you too. Oh, okay. Oh, here they come out. Let's do it at the same time to see if it works. Hey, you want to know something weird? The fact that there are true persons exist? No. But yeah, in order for humans to conquer, we have to put on this super bulky suit. All we have to do is not flinch.
Alright, it's 6. Next game is at 8.
Sup, you bastards. Welcome back to the Bill DeFranco Show. You daily dive into the news. I'm sorry to inform you, the news is still news. There's so much we have to talk about today. In fact, I might even have to do a live stream tonight. So make sure you're subscribed. Make sure you have all notifications turned on. And let's just jump into it. Now, is Ava Chris Tyson, Mr. Beast situation here seems to be getting messier and worse by the minute. We didn't see a full dive into the situation yesterday. Really, there's a lot of ground to cover there. There are multiple accusations, controversy. So yesterday, just before we got the show, the last thing we put into the
Hello, one viewer. Are you one of my family members that's secretly just watching my stuff? What the Vega, little girl? What are you doing? Huh? Vega.
Beyond bad, edgy jokes is disgusting and did not happen. In past years, I have learned that my old humor is not acceptable. I cannot change who I was, but I can continue to work on myself. I don't want these accusations to impact the hundreds of people who work at Mr. Beast, which is why I have stepped away. And there, we actually saw Lava replying to her post saying, I'm sorry that people are making up lies with my name in them. I hope everyone sees the truth soon. You never did anything wrong to me. Nothing inappropriate happened between us. And while you saw some agreeing with what Lava said there, you also had others saying, no, kind of having a version of the argument that Moist Critical had when we talked about him yesterday. And in fact, he posted another video last night where he talks a lot about Lava's defense of Ava.
And I'm not trying to be some kind of armchair psychologist because I'm just, at the end of the day, a little reptile brain idiot. But I really do feel like in a situation like this, it's very difficult to process just how inappropriate or unacceptable something was when you lived it. But in reality, no child should have this kind of relationship with an adult where you're joking about sending nudes to a minor or making edgy jokes about coming for America. So while the person here might not feel like a victim, it really is completely unacceptable that Ava Tyson would be communicating with them like this. It really is.
With that, then actually seeming to get Lava's attention because shortly after that video went live, Lava posted on X, Moist, hey, I just saw your video. I would love to chat in DMs to maybe clarify some points you made in the video. So far, as of recording, we haven't seen anything come from that. Though this also, as Moist himself has been on the defense for another reason. Or with that, connected to that whole other aspect of the situation where you had a lot of creators facing a lot of heat for not immediately chiming in. With a number of critics saying a combo of either you're too scared to piss off Mr. Beast because you want that collab, or you're trying to avoid talking about Ava even though you came for Dr. Disrespect's throat when the allegations against him came out. Though also, there you had many, including Moist himself, saying, you know, he actually did chime in on the Ava situation pretty early. But this also, as he's hardly the only one getting attacked over this. In fact, we're seeing situations like this and pushback all over the place. Where you have big creators like Ludwig responding to calls to respond by saying, my video on Doc literally came out 2 days after Charlie's, not immediately after information came out. Saying I waited for Doc's statement on Twitter and on Steam and his removal from Midnight Society. And adding, I'm literally in Paris with my family. Why y'all motherfuckers so horny for a statement? Also, we're seeing a number of those who did speak out still being hit, with a number of people still going after Pokimane and Valkyrie, who we talked about yesterday. We're seeing many shifting their criticism from you aren't talking about this to you didn't go in against Ava enough. Or with people going back to when Poki said yuck and Ray said Dr. Disgusting after the whole Dr. Disrespect situation. Though there you saw a good number of people defending them, noting that their responses came a few days after the Dr. Disrespect allegations had already been stewing and adding. The way people are treating Valkyrie and Pokimane over this Ava situation makes me so sad. This happened in one day. I still don't fully know what the fuck is going on. And going on to say creators didn't speak up against Dr. Disrespect until he made a statement himself. Ray and Poki made statements condemning the behavior. What more do you want? And we also saw Ray defending herself, saying she felt pressure to put out a tweet as soon as possible, saying her mentions were being swarmed, that large creators were calling people out, saying she had to take a break from moving in order to look into the situation, and adding, I equally called both Dr. D and Ava disgusting after their statements. But with all that said, it's going to be very interesting to see what happens from here. And I say that not only because some have alleged that there's going to be more that comes out, but also because the mainstream media has now latched onto this story, with the BBC, Sky News, and Forbes, just to name a few, covering this today. With also part of this seeming to be morphing into going after Mr. Beast, with people posting old clips of him that are racking up views, doing things like dropping a homophobic slur. There's also a clip where it appears that he asked someone if they'd put their dick inside Bad Baby, with people saying that she would have been 14 at the time. But again, all of this has been developing and evolving, and for now, we're gonna have to wait to see what comes from all this. And in the meantime, of course, I'd love to know your thoughts. And then, we've got to talk about this emotional roller coaster of a story around Christopher Dunn. And while it's in the news,
knock it off, guys.
To fully understand this, we got to go back to a spring night in 1990, because that is when you had this group of teenage boys hanging out in front of one of their homes in Missouri when a gunman suddenly opened fire on them. And this shooting killing 15-year-old Rico Rogers. And then, as the search for the shooter unfolded, you had two witnesses, aged 12 and 14, identifying Christopher Dunn, then 18 years old, as the shooter. Now, in his defense, Dunn's childhood friend testified that she was on the phone with him that night, a phone which was at his family's house. His mom also backed that up, confirming that he was at home watching TV with the family when the shooting happened.
I know he wasn't because we all was at the house. And I told the police that. And he said, well, family people lie for family people.
But despite that, one, Dunn was tried for murder, and two, the prosecution presented no motive, no weapon, not even any physical evidence. Just the testimony of those two boys, which formed the backbone of the case against him. And this entire trial, it was over in a single afternoon, with the jury deliberating for just 45 minutes. But instead of giving Dunn the slam dunk acquittal that he expected, they found him guilty of first-degree murder, for which he was sentenced to life without parole, and he recalled this to CBS.
It was like my world just fell in front of me. I didn't see anything else but darkness.
And throughout all of this, Dunn maintained his innocence, which also led 8 years later to the story catching the eye of writer and editor Kira Kaywood.
Their testimonies didn't match, but by the time they got to court, everything matched. And so it was clear to me reading it that these young men seemed to have been coached.
And so with the help of a private investigator, she tracked down the two witnesses and both recanted their testimonies. With the first admitting that he lied because the prosecution offered him leniency on charges he was facing himself. And the second admitting that he lied because he thought Dunn was affiliated with a rival gang.
Did we see Dunn do it? No.
Okay.
No, nobody seen Dunn do it.
But Kira, she wasn't just convinced of Dunn's innocence, she also became convinced that she loved him.
We got married right here in this visiting room.
So her name is no longer Kira Kaywood, but Kira Dunn, wife of the man that she's fighting to set free. Which then brings us to 2018, when Dunn's legal team filed to vacate his conviction. And given the bombshell evidence that they now have, Dunn's family told ABC they assumed that this case would just be open and shut.
One of the guys came out and he told Mom that he believed Chris was innocent.
He said, Mrs. Dunn, on behalf of the state of Missouri, I am so sorry for what's happened to your son. I had his clothes and we had the car and we were just ready to go have something to eat afterwards.
But after 2 long years of deliberation, the judge shocked everybody by ruling that Chris Dunn had to stay in prison. Writing, this court does not believe that any jury would now convict Christopher Dunn under these facts. But then adding that even despite that, a quirk of Missouri law prohibits his release because only death row inmates can make innocence claims. And of course, Dunn, he was only given a life sentence, so this was an absolutely devastating gut punch for all, but especially his mom.
It just hurt. I'm tired.
But then even with that, Dunn still had one last hope: St. Louis Circuit Attorney Gabriel Gore. Because thanks to a 2021 state law, prosecutors can actually request a hearing if they have evidence that someone was wrongfully convicted. So Gore filed a motion to vacate the conviction in February of this year, presenting his case to a judge in May, and he just got the decision this week, with the judge stating in no uncertain terms, the state of Missouri shall immediately discharge Christopher Dunn from its custody. Meaning that at the age of 52, having spent 33 years of his life in prison, suffered 3 heart attacks after being stabbed by another inmate, Chris Dunn can finally walk free. Kira telling the news.
I'm still processing this. I'm so thankful, though. I can tell you that I'm so thankful that we're us.
Except, it turns out his freedom may not be so easy. And that's because Republican Attorney General Andrew Bailey, who has maintained that Dunn is in fact guilty since the beginning, appealed the judge's ruling. And this, even though the district attorney says that under Missouri law, the AG has no right to appeal. But despite that, the Missouri Department of Corrections is refusing to let Dunn go, citing the pending appeal. As for why Bailey's doing this, I honestly cannot find an answer right now, other than maybe he has a kink for keeping innocent people locked up. Or I mean, he has stubbornly opposed other high-profile innocence claims in Missouri recently, with Lamar Johnson Johnson, for example, who spent 27 years in prison before being freed, and Marcellus Williams, who's set to be executed later this year. Now, there was also Sandra Hemi, who spent 43 years in prison before a judge
another
vacated her
Republican
conviction
killing
last
an
month.
innocent
In that
for no
case,
reason.
Bailey's appeals kept her from being released, and even
Color
called
me
the prison
fucking-
warden to urge him
Oh,
not
God.
to let her go. So there, after the judge threatened Bailey with contempt of court, she was finally set free on Friday. And so now you have Dunn's family just hoping to God that he gets the same outcome.
We are overjoyed, and at the same time, we're also afraid to really exhale until
This
Chris actually
fucking
takes his first
color me
piece
surprised. I mean, really,
feels
just
the
fucking.
ground against his feet.
God
When that
damn,
happens,
man. What is wrong
I think all
with
these
this fucking
feelings
world
we've been
right now? What is
holding on
wrong
to
with
for so
MAGA
long
and the fucking
finally
Republicans, man?
But then, just
What's
to take a
wrong
minute,
with
y'all,
these fucking-
the recent news cycles have just been wild. And I know that, for many, it's hard to know when you're getting the full picture, which is, what we strive for with creating the PDS each day. But that's also where today's sponsor, Ground News, comes in. See, Ground News' app and website combine news from across the political spectrum and around the world, allowing us to compare coverage with helpful context in each source, right? Like potential political bias, reporting reliability, and even the source of their funding. And often comparing coverage is critical to getting the heart of a story. Like take, for instance, Republicans calling for Biden to resign after ending his re-election campaign. With more than 100 articles published, the right is covering it slightly more, but it's clearly a hot issue for both sides of the aisle. You've got sources on the right, like the Business Standard and the New York Post, emphasizing Biden isn't fit to serve, while left-leaning sources like MSNBC call this, quote, tough to take seriously, with The Atlantic then reframing Trump as the Republicans' elderly candidate. And Ground News enables this for every story you read. It's a place for moderates, liberals, conservatives, the politically homeless, or anyone tired of mainstream narratives and interested in leaving their silos to see the full picture. And at a time where it feels like we just all live in different realities, it can help to see where potentially other people are coming from, right? How and what they're being fed. It can help you understand where they think they're coming from. And if any or all of that sounds interesting, go to ground.news/DeFranco or scan the QR code for 40% off unlimited access, which is what I use to read the news. And then, so this Benjamin Netanyahu situation has just stirred up a major storm in American politics. Right, for the first time in nearly a decade, the Israeli leader addressed Congress today, and tensions have been insanely high both inside and outside the Capitol. I mean, yesterday you had hundreds of pro-Palestine protesters arrested in sessional building. Today you had thousands of demonstrators descending on the Capitol ahead of Netanyahu's speech. Meanwhile, in Congress, Netanyahu's visit has highlighted the sharp divide among members on Israel and his leadership during this war, particularly among Democrats. In fact, we saw dozens of members announcing beforehand that they'd be skipping the address in protest. But according to Politico, at least 18 House Democrats and 9 Senate Democrats saying publicly they'll miss the speech. With that, including key members of leadership in both chambers, prominent Jewish leaders, and high-profile lawmakers like AOC, who said in a tweet, "It is a dark day in U.S. history when an authoritarian with a warrant request from the International Criminal Court is allowed to address a joint session of Congress. 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Hostages aren't home. Netanyahu is a war criminal. I will be boycotting his address." This was also echoed by Rashida Tlaib, the only Palestinian American in Congress, who said in a statement, "It is utterly disgraceful that leaders from both parties have invited him to address Congress." Beyond that, we've seen others blasting the event as a political stunt, and this even including some Democrats who are attending the address, with some arguing the Republican leaders knew that it would put a strain on Democrats when they invited Netanyahu. And this is foreign leaders usually address Congress in coordination with invitations from the president. Here, it was actually Republican House Speaker Mike Johnson who led the effort, not Biden. A move that, emphasized the GOP support for Netanyahu and Israel while driving a wedge between Democrats just months before a chaotic election. And this, at a time when Democrats are trying to unite around Kamala Harris. Also, notably here, Harris skipped the address, even though it's customary for the vice president to preside over these events. So there, her aide said that it was because of a previously scheduled conflict and not a reflection of her views on Israel. In general, Harris has made sure not to stray from Biden's staunchly pro-Israel views, and she's actually set to meet with Netanyahu while he's in the States. But despite that, we saw Johnson seizing on her absence, trying to politicize it, condemning her, even though apparently there was this conflict, and saying, "Madam Vice President, you say you want to be the leader of the free world, and yet you can't bring yourself to sit behind our most important strategic ally in this moment. That is not a good look for you. It is not a good look for America. It's not a good look for her party that she aims to lead." Right, and with all this, we also saw other Republicans criticizing members for missing the speech, even some Democrats joining in to condemn their colleagues, arguing here that the U.S. needs to show that it is committed to the Jewish state and a major ally, regardless of politics. And that said, as far as the contents of the speech itself, Netanyahu's address was still going on while I was recording this show. But so far, some of the big things that he's hit on are the things that you'd expect, such as Hamas's attack on October 7th, with Netanyahu likening it to Pearl Harbor and 9/11, and then saying comparing America's and Israel's populations, it was actually like 20 9/11s. Also with this, promising victory over Hamas, saying Israel will do whatever it takes to secure its northern border. He also thanked Biden for referring to himself as a Zionist, as well as the U.S. for its support of Israel. And with all this, asking for U.S. military aid to be fast-tracked to, quote, finish the job faster. We also saw Netanyahu firing on all cylinders against protesters.
Incredibly, many anti-Israel protesters, many choose to stand with evil. They stand with Hamas. They should be ashamed of themselves. For all we know, Iran is funding the anti-Israel protests that are going on right now outside this building. Well, I have a message for these protesters. When the tyrants of Tehran, who hang gays from cranes and murder women for not covering their hair, are praising, promoting, and funding you, you have officially become Iran's useful idiots. Some of these protesters hold up signs proclaiming gays for Gaza. They might as well hold up signs saying chickens for KFC.
But for now, that's where we're gonna have to end this, because again, this is still ongoing as I'm finishing up today's show. So very likely I'll be adding to this tomorrow, as well as talking about the responses. And in the meantime, I'd love to know yours. Let me know what you're thinking and why in those comments down below. And then, when we've got things like burn pits, atomic bombs, weapon shockwaves, you have to ask, how many more ways can we poison and injure our soldiers? Well, apparently there's one more. Say hello to Karshi Kanabad, or simply K2 for short, a military base in Uzbekistan. See, it's a former Soviet air base that the United States used to strike targets in Afghanistan after 9/11. But it also happens to be a former chemical weapons processing site. So when the Americans arrived, they found tons of old debris, including what appeared to be enriched yellow cake uranium, right? A highly radioactive substance that littered the ground in clumps and was spread everywhere in powdered form. And that form matters because it means that it gets picked up in the air that you inhale, as well as the water and the soil. In fact, according to the Associated Press, the uranium radiation levels in the soil, they were up to 40,000 times higher than would be expected if it were just natural uranium. And even though an environmental ground team found unambiguous contamination there, the US military built a sprawling tent city at K2, with sending more than 15,000 soldiers there between 2001 and 2005. And all the while, rain and wind frequently stirred up the contaminants, which then brings us to the fact that of the 5,000 vets that advocates have gotten in touch with, more than 1,500 have self-reported medical conditions. With us talking about what you'd expect: cancers, neurological conditions, reproductive system problems, a large number of birth defects, and bone conditions, among other issues. But despite years of complaints to Veterans Affairs, the agency says that it's still studying the issue before it'll actually decide whether to add radiation exposure at K2 to its coverage. Now, with that said, of course, it would be 100 times easier to sidestep all that bureaucracy if Congress just expanded coverage instead of leaving it up to the VA. And that's exactly what they did for burn pit victims and other types of toxic exposure with the PACT Act in 2022. But notably, as monumental as all that was, the legislation didn't cover radiation exposure at K2, which is why now you have Jon Stewart, a guy who advocated for the PACT Act and 9/11 first responders well before that, telling the AP, imagine you're stationed inside the meth lab on Breaking Bad. These guys were exposed to a toxic soup of basically an exploded chemicals and nuclear weapon facility. And this whole situation is not done getting attention, because this Friday you have Stewart headed to Washington to press the VA on this issue. But for now, we'll have to wait to see if Jon Stewart and others yelling at Congress gets them to do something again, which again, in any country worth anything, shouldn't be that hard of a push. It's taking care of people who took care of the country. But you know, America. And then, y'all, it is over. That doesn't work. It's over for Senator Bob Menendez, because he has just announced that he will officially be resigning next month. And this coming as he faced tons of pressure from his Democratic colleagues to step down after he was convicted by a Manhattan federal court jury last week in a sweeping international bribery scheme, with Menendez actually being found guilty on all 16 felony counts for taking hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes in the form of cash, gold bars, and a Mercedes-Benz from 3 businessmen. And all of this in exchange for securing deals with foreign officials and interfering with criminal investigations in New Jersey. Now, Menendez, for his part, has insisted that he is innocent and vowed to appeal the decision. But not long after that verdict came down, the Senate Ethics Committee started laying the groundwork to hold a vote to expel him from the Senate if he didn't resign voluntarily, which notably would have made him the first senator to be expelled since the Civil War. Of course, instead, he is resigning. And in his resignation letter, Menendez explained his decision, saying, while I fully intend to appeal the jury's verdict all the way and including to the Supreme Court, I do not want the Senate to be involved in a lengthy process that will detract from its important work. Now, that said, as far as what happens next, Menendez said he will officially depart on August 20th, giving his office time to find new jobs. And then, once he's out, the state's Democratic governor, Phil Murphy, will appoint a replacement to serve in his seat until January, when his current term expires. But also, regardless of who the governor picks, that person's only going to serve for a few months. Because New Jersey, they already had their primaries to select the Democratic and Republican candidates who are going to fight for the seat in November, and neither are Menendez. And that because after he was indicted last year, the party abandoned him. He declined to seek the Democratic nomination, and instead, he launched a long-shot bid to run for re-election as an independent. Though also, very notably here, even though he's resigning, the New York Times reported that Menendez, quote, left open the possibility that he might remain a long-shot candidate for re-election this fall as a political independent, noting he has until August 16th to take his name off the ballot. Which is actually super significant because while there's no way that he's gonna win, some party members are worried that he's still gonna have enough of a following that he could siphon votes from the Democratic nominee, and in doing that, create a path for the Republican candidate to swoop in and take the seat. And a Republican strategy strategist telling the Times that even a small number of votes for Menendez, those could be consequential. And that's more important than ever because Democrats are fighting tooth and nail to try to keep their slim majority in the chamber. So actually, as a result, there's now pressure on Governor Murphy to appoint the Dem candidate, Rep. Andy Kim. With the hope being he serves the rest of the term, it gives him a solid incumbency advantage ahead of the election, but who knows? According to reports, Murphy strongly dislikes Kim because he beat the governor's wife, who was also running for the seat during a pretty blistering primary. And what's more, he also faces pressure from Republicans not to tip the scales in favor of the Democrats. So I don't know how much that actually plays into the real life equation. But for now, we'll have to wait and see because even with his resignation, it is nowhere near over. Except for Menendez, because of course it's Menendover. I still hate it. But then to shift gears really quick, because some of y'all just won't stop yelling at me, for the first time in a little while, we are no longer completely sold out at beautifulbastard.com. And that is because a brand new drop of classics and remixes and another thing has just gone live this afternoon. With that including OG Emotionally Exhausted and new colorways, Emotionally Exhausted flowers, the tie-dye. We've got Yeah, No, I'm Fine on new colors, custom colorways of Don't Be Stupid, new colorways of Embrace Change and Are You Taking Care of Yourself, a brand new remix of our sports shirt and tanks, along with the classics you know and love, and then possibly, maybe just for one day only, we'll see, someone on the team just kind of made this as a goof, the Unburdened by What Has Been tee and tank. And of course, all of these are on our custom cut and sew cotton spandex blends for the tees and the tanks, 100% cotton on the hoodie. We're not just using some random blanks that are out there. So grab what you want while you can. I know you'll love it. And then, y'all, we have to talk about the Olympics. I'm gonna keep this short. It's just something else if you may not be aware of. And that is that there is a new sport that is part of the Olympics this year called kayak cross. And it is very much like they allowed a child to make up a game and they were like, yeah, that should be in the Olympics. So you might guess from the name, it involves kayaks, good job. But this race, it doesn't start in the water. That would be silly. It instead starts 6.5 feet above the water and they're dropped into the water. With the four athletes then having to race through an obstacle course. There's upstream and downstream areas. Also, it's like full contact. But then my favorite part being you cannot finish the race unless you do a 360 flip underwater. Or they call it an Eskimo roll. This may be the only sport that I watch every single race. And then gunshots, motorcycle accidents, balcony falls, high-speed winds throwing equipment around. Right? Those are just some of the hazards that have led to severe injuries and even deaths on film sets in recent years. In fact, Amazon Studios alone has had 3 incidents in less than 5 years that have left people dead or seriously hurt, like Jon Farhat. Before working on the set of Amazon's holiday movie Candy Cane Lane, starring Eddie Murphy, Jon was a 33-year vet of Hollywood. He'd overseen the computer-generated graphics on more than 20 films over his 3 decades. He had become an in-demand visual effects supervisor. He was even nominated for an Academy Award for his work on The Mask. But in March of last year, Jon got seriously injured in an accident on set, and he's been mostly bedridden ever since, which is why in September we saw him sue for negligence. And according to Jon's lawsuit, the production for Candy Cane Lane was a disaster, saying the director was frequently requesting rewrites, completely changing the movie, and the production schedule was disorganized to say the least. Like, for example, the producers were demanding a flaming 15-foot Christmas tree, but the weather kept pushing that shot further and further back. That is until March 29th when they just decided to press forward despite gusts of wind of around 30 miles per hour. And in his lawsuit, Jon said the tent that was meant to protect the equipment, it wasn't secured properly to the ground, leading to a strong gust sending it flying. And that tent, he said, it speared him in the back and it threw him into the air before he fell to the ground unconscious. In fact, Jon actually made a video simulation showing exactly how he was injured. And this accident broke 5 of Jon's vertebrae, 2 ribs, and even now, more than a year later, he is unable to sit and can't even stand for more than an hour, and he has to take an ambulance to and from his doctor's appointments. With Jon's wife saying she struggles watching her husband, a staple in the Hollywood crew world and also a helicopter pilot, just waste away in front of a television now, saying it's like putting a hummingbird inside a box. And while he's obviously struggling physically, he's also battling bureaucracy, right? Endless red tape for workers' compensation. And when he filed his lawsuit, Amazon's lawyers denied they were negligent or even liable for the accident. And all we really saw was OSHA impose a fine of $7,200 for violations in connection with the Candy Cane Lane project, including the delayed reporting of a serious injury. However, the fines were levied against Big Indie Candy Inc., a production services company hired by Amazon to edit the film. In fact, Amazon reportedly often employs a production service to manage day-to-day operations on film sets. And then you see that production service in turn outsources even further for things like insurance, payroll, and equipment, with the key thing being separating Amazon from direct legal liability if things go sideways. And according to the New York Times, Jon decided to share his story now over a year later.
How is that fucking
his lawsuit
possible?
In light of other incidents that are happening on Amazon sets. Like in April on the set of the movie The Pickup, which interestingly also stars Eddie Murphy, a stunt went wrong in Atlanta, resulting in a car crash that sent 8 people to the hospital, with one of those 8 being Marvin Haven, who spent several days in the ICU for injuries including broken ribs, a punctured lung, and a skull fracture that required facial reconstructive surgery. But then really the first incident to kick off Amazon's string of film set mishaps, it happened back in 2020, because that's when a stunt woman on the set of Rings of Power hit her head head on a fitting on the bottom of a tank that she was working in. And a review of the accident by the New Zealand government's health and safety regulator determined, quote, risk assessment, worker engagement, hazard identification, monitor, and review structures were not as cohesive as they could have been. You know, it's worth noting that while film sets can be dangerous for anybody in any department, stunt workers are often assuming the most risk, with many of their injuries also going unreported, usually out of fear of being blacklisted. With, for example, Jeffrey Russell of Ohio University saying, many stunt performers are afraid to report their injuries, especially head trauma, in fear they'll be put on a do not hire list or looked at as a liability. The more injuries or trauma, the harder it may be to find work. But that should not be how it is. Production companies and their unions should be ensuring stunt performers are taken care of and not reprimanded for any injuries sustained on the job. And according to a study co-authored by Russell and published in the Journal of Occupational Medicine and Toxicology last year, around 80% of stunt performers have experienced at least one incident of head impact or head whip on the job, which is of course more than similar injuries reported by dancers, theater workers, and even professional fighters, with 65% of those who were injured reporting concussion-like symptoms and kept working despite that, and 44% deciding not to report it at the shame or fears in work or feeling I needed to just tough it out. With also respondents in the study safety of the work and writing things like stricter standards for stunt coordinators and ensuring proper gear is used. They also suggested that some coordinators have a tendency to choose less experienced stunt performers over proven ones, and said that involving a producer in the vetting process that may address that. But nonetheless, they say that the risk of injury, especially head injuries to stunt performers,
that motherfucker.
Addressed How? Co-author Elizabeth Beverly saying,
How?
We've observed the negative outcomes
is that
of head
fucking
trauma
possible?
in football and other sports, and changes have been made in the last 5 years to prevent and reduce the number of those concussions. My hope is that the film industry
there's no
draws
fucking
parallels
way.
and sees this as an opportunity
no
to intervene
fucking
and make
way
changes.
is that
Stunt
possible.
performers are an integral part of the entertainment industry, and they deserve to work in a safe environment. Now, with all this, you know, I do want to note injuries on set. They are not an Amazon exclusive. Right? I mean, following the infamous shooting accident by Alec Baldwin on the set of Rust, the LA Times reviewed published reports and government data to find that at least 19 fatal injuries occurred on movie sets between 2010 and 2019. And according to data from OSHA, there have been at least 47 fatalities and 250 film production accidents since 1990. Though it could also be worth noting that compared to some other industries, less than 50 deaths in over 30 years, it's not too bad. But as attorney Chris Deacon told the LA Times, any death in what should be a safe working environment with platinum-rated safety standards is a death too many. And adding, if those engaged to work on set in whatever capacity are dying at the hands of the creative process, then something is fundamentally wrong in the production processes. And all this is, over the last decade, we've actually seen the number of fatalities steadily rising, right? And that, likely due in part to the rapid growth of the industry to feed the content beast of innumerable streaming services. However, also, you have authorities and experts saying the producers cutting corners to save on time and money is also contributing to the problem. With, for example, Jeff Harris, an attorney who represented the family of stuntman John Bernecker in a wrongful death lawsuit, saying, it does not surprise me if you have reduced budgets, a more stressed crew, more expectation on the bottom line, that you're going to have increases in both injuries on set and fatalities. But that, my friends, is where today's Wednesday evening, Thursday morning dive into the news is going to end. Also, friendly reminder, I might be going live tonight. But the good news, no matter what, is you don't have to miss my stupid face for that long, because I'll be right back here to talk more news with you tomorrow.
An ally has been slain.
Surrender, because we fucking lost. Yeah, here we go. Alright, I'm gonna go piss. Fucking League of Legends, man. That's why I don't fucking play this game anymore. It's because it's just like, you either play against some no-life fuckers that just fucking play non-stop, can't even enjoy the fucking game. Like Phasmophobia, everybody you play with, you're playing with them to fucking achieve a common goal. Actually, I bet that's why League built the new PvE thing. It's because the fact that they're probably losing players because people get so pissed off over the fucking game. Hurry up! Go potty! Go potty, hurry up! Winston, come on. That's fucking stupid.
Hey, can I talk to you for a second? Or a few hours, I guess? Throughout last year, I made several videos going throughout various weird episodes of Jimmy Neutron, ultimately landing on part 3 of the series covering all of Season 3 more in depth. But I've been thinking for quite some time that I wanted to go back and do the same fully for Seasons 1 and 2, and make the full series one big video as a bonus present just for you. If you watched the original series of these last year, well then do I have news for you. Majority of this video is all brand new content that you have not seen before. This will be a big celebration of my love for the Jimmy Neutron franchise. So I am even going to cover new things in general.
I don't know why I re-downloaded this
game. Like the original movie that kicked off the franchise.
If you're getting up here, get up here.
If you enjoy this video, you better subscribe. You know how long this took, man? If you're not as familiar with Jimmy Neutron, let this serve as your guide through it all. But if you're a big fan of Jimmy Neutron, like myself, then sit back, relax, and join in on the fun. Let's jump into the complete weird world of Jimmy Neutron. Welcome back to the 25 Days of Fringemas, where there's going to be brand new videos every single day from December 1st to December 25th. Hop aboard.
Now a word from our sponsor.
Thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. Surfshark VPN is a virtual private network. It helps you secure your digital life, in turn helping your real life by putting your worries at ease. Surfshark offers one of the best full coverage VPN packages out there with an unlimited number of devices that can all run under one subscription, all at the same time. Seriously, as many devices as you want. The Surfshark app itself is available on all platforms, PC, Mac, and of course the Linux users out there, you're covered as well, even smart TVs and video game consoles, all along with 24/7 live customer support and a full 30-day money-back guarantee to make sure you know it's completely risk-free by giving them a shot, as well as one of the best security measures with their strictly no-logs policy, which encrypts your data, meaning that they do not keep any of it, nor does anyone know what you're doing online. Want to watch something that isn't streaming in your country? No worries, just connect to any of the servers Surfshark has around the world and boom, you can access streaming libraries of even more content that otherwise would not be available in your country. It's fast and it's easy to use, filled with features that go beyond just the basics with a regular VPN. If you want to protect yourself online as well as help support the channel, you can get Surfshark VPN at surfshark.deal/JordanFringe and enter promo code JordanFringe for 85% off as well as an extra 3 months for free. So click the link down below in the description and get protected today.
I hate.
Alright, it's time to talk about Jimmy Neutron. who in the Code Lyoko forehead is that? Well, that's Johnny Quasar, the original test for the idea of Jimmy Neutron. So in the 1980s, this guy here, John A. Davis, worked on the pre-production ideas for a short called Runaway Rocket Boy that would follow Mr. Quasar here, the name coming from a mix of Johnny Quest and Captain Quasar, two huge inspirations of just building in the things you love into what you're working on. The short would follow Johnny after he builds a rocket to run away from home, hence the name, Runaway Rocket Boy. Originally in mind, this was going to be a fusion of live action and CGI technology from that time, but with little movement to pursue this idea further, nothing really came of it in the 80s. John had his own studio though, DNA Productions, you know, the "Hi, I'm Paul" three-eyed monkey thing at the end of Jimmy Neutron episodes. It's burned into my brain, I'll never forget it. At DNA Productions, they began trying out some software for computer animation and came to the decision that his Johnny Quasar story is really better suited for a CGI film. Here's where we fast forward to this video, the proof of concept all done with computer graphics that shows Jimmy and his robotic dog flying in a rocket. John and DNA Productions co-founder Keith Alcorn got to work finishing up what this would fully look like, as well as creating the series Bible if it were to become a full-fledged TV series instead of a movie. Following a circuit of showing off this short proof of concept around, buzz on it was spreading, winning awards and getting articles in magazines. And while all this is really cool, the most important thing that happened to it was that Steve Odekirk saw it and wanted in on it. He was the founder of O Entertainment and thought that what John and Keith had put together looked fun. These three linked up at one point, and Steve took a look around at what they had fully come up with concept-wise, so he wanted to help them take around and pitch Johnny Quasar to some networks in the hopes of making it a reality. So now we have two studios coming together, and the outcome was making an episode with the new title of the show, The Adventures of Johnny Quasar, taking the visuals to a new level, redesigning a bunch of stuff, and overall just fleshing out this short into something a lot more tangible. Now we've reached the mid-90s, and Nickelodeon was the big network at the table. They were interested in the concept, and even more importantly, the president of Nick at the time, Albie Hetch, was interested in the concept. From the character of Johnny himself to the base concept of what the show was. This was great. There was interest. Johnny Quasar may become a reality. Nickelodeon told them to get to work finishing up a 13-minute pilot, on Nickelodeon's dime of course. So after a few years going back and forth, really tailoring out what this show would be, what the creators wanted, what Nickelodeon wanted, the full pilot was finished in 1998. Nickelodeon had one major request though that would change Johnny Quasar into the character we know today.
What the fuck
they
about
wanted the name of the main character and the show name overall changed so that there was no shred of feeling like the names were taken from past popular properties. Davis would ultimately be the one to come up with the new and final name for the main character in the show. He went for a walk, his dog was with him, and something just ended up clicking. Out of thin air, the name Jimmy Neutron was born. Boom! The final missing piece to make this show complete was formed, and Nickelodeon was happy with both the name of the show and the show pilot itself. Now here's where the big idea shifted. How do we launch this show? We could shoot it up like a rocket right into space and see what happens, or we can be calculated, make sure the math is right, and then launch with a lot more prep, knowing exactly what we're doing. The idea to bring awareness to the eventual show was to make it a theatrical film, which Nickelodeon was finding some success in from their few live-action films, but definitely with their animated films. There were a lot of benefits here. The assets would be able to be shared between both the film and the show, which means there is a lot of money to be saved right there alone. Aside from some more work on the theatrical models to add a bit more detail like most big-budget animated films do when working on an existing property or future property, but rather than a show that comes out and then has a movie like we see in the majority of cases when an animated show gets very popular, a movie is more likely to be made, John thought that releasing the movie first would work as a gateway to the show, along with some other behind-the-scenes production for workflow past the film. While there were a lot of worries just delivering a new property to people with nothing to base it on, why would kids be excited for it? This was their main concern, but they decided to risk it for the biscuit and went with the feature film idea. It was greenlit with a $30 million budget in 1999, and production began the following year, and the film would fully release in theaters on December 21st, 2001, becoming the animated film for families for the holidays. This was the first time Nickelodeon would release a film in theaters that was computer generated over their live action and 2D animated films. But all of the worries that the creators had taking this risk, as well as Nick taking this risk, were quickly pushed aside, as Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius would become a hit, earning a total of right under $103 million at the box office, cementing Jimmy Neutron as a winning bet, and the franchise would be good to come out following the film. So now that we've established all of that, before we jump into the show itself, let's take a look at what the movie itself was all about and how it perfectly set up the show.
Jimmy Neutron will be right back, and if that isn't enough, it's going to start up right where it left off. When will Jimmy Neutron be back? Good question.
Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius, movie. I'll get this out of the way right from the start. I love this movie. I remember going to the theaters and seeing this movie, and now as an adult they finally put it on Blu-ray. Life sure is sweet sometimes. But the film follows, well, the adventures of Jimmy Neutron, which makes sense since that's the name of the show itself later on. Jimmy Neutron is your typical kid. He goes to school, he has friends, he has a robotic dog, and he's a super genius at 11 years old. Yeah, just your typical kid. He lives in Retroville, a quaint suburban town that has a smaller downtown area. And we meet basically everyone important here. His friends Carl Weaver and Sheen Estevez, his parents Hugh and Judy, and even his maybe crush but total mental gymnastic rival, Cindy Vortex. Of course, we meet a lot more characters in the film that would get more expanded roles in the show, like Libby, Cindy's best friend, Nick, who is the cool kid, and who can forget Miss Fowl. Oh, yeah, of course, we really get to meet Jimmy, understand who he is, how his smarts constantly cause trouble for others, and how he has to brain blast a solution to fix everything up. And his dog Goddard is there too. He's great. Well, to be fair, he comes in handy as a mode of transportation, a loyal companion, a storage unit, and so much more. Goddard is just great. Now, what is the actual plot of the film? So this will play into what happens shortly, but we start the film with Jimmy flying past the military to launch a homemade satellite of sorts into space in hopes of it reaching other intelligent life among the stars. But back to the surface of Earth, Jimmy's parents aren't happy with him and his scientific mischievousness. So what do kids do when their parents don't let them get their way and they get punished for their actions, and you want to go to the grand opening of the Retroland amusement park? Well, they start listening to a bad influence, which comes in the vessel of Nick. You know, that cool kid, who tells him to sneak out at night and go have fun at the amusement park with everyone going. So he disobeys his parents, meets up with Carl and Sheen, and they go have the time of their lives at the park, all backed by one of the greatest songs ever made, Pop by NSYNC. No, I will not debate you on that. It is no longer subjective. It's a fact. Speaking of facts, the music in this film is great. Like, the actual songs they picked for this film are some real bops and make the film even more special. Oh, but it dates it to the early 2000s. So I like it. Leave me alone. Their night went really well. Everyone had a good time, and oh, a shooting star. Time to make a wish. A wish for no more parents so the kids can do whatever they want when they want. But remember that satellite from the start of the movie? Well, it reached someone. A few someones. The Yokians. An alien race of egg-like beings with their robotic outer shells giving them the full completed egg look. I love them. Great bad guys. They see a picture of Jimmy's parents and realize that parents are exactly what they need for a great sacrifice. So they swoop down to Earth, kidnap all the parents in town as the kids are at the amusement park, and when the morning rolls around, the wish technically came true as all the parents are gone. So all the kids throw the biggest party they can, taking over the town, the school, the streets, and they just live it up until they're sick of it. And Jimmy realizes that the parents didn't all just leave without telling their kids. In fact, when his parents went to check in on him at night and they were talking to Goddard, in which they thought they were talking to Jimmy, they said they'll see you in the morning. So Big Brain here does some research in his lab, and lo and behold, aliens visit Earth and they took all of their parents. Whatever is an 11-year-old kid and the rest of his classmates supposed to do? Yup, rally together into space after the aliens to rescue their parents. How, you ask? Well, they dismantled the amusement park, turning different rides into space-traveling vessels. Again, another bot plays here, being kids in America by no secrets. And everything's all working, and then this moment happens, and you're all worried, but then the engines all ignite properly, and the music turns back on at the exact moment. Kids in the theater are losing their mind, popcorn is flying everywhere, vomit is spewing. This was that moment where you were locked in, you believe that these kids are actually going to do it. Yeah, I like the movie a lot. So after some space traveling, they make their way to the Yokian planet, where they are easily able to find their parents, but unfortunately, they all are wearing some mind control helmets that make them follow the command of the leader of the Yokians, King Goobot. So when Jimmy tries to save his father, he is caught, and Your Royal Highness King Goobot comes over to tell Jimmy and all the friends that their parents being captured, and the fact that they are all about to be sacrificed to the giant chicken god Poltra, was all Jimmy's fault in the first place, for sending out that satellite containing all that extra information. So now the kids are imprisoned. Everyone hates Jimmy, Goddard is stripped away from them, and Cindy ends up giving Jimmy the pep talk he needs to not give up, and help come up with a plan to escape from the prison cells and save their parents before they are eaten by a giant chicken. He uses Libby's cell phone to reach out to Goddard, who is able to break free from his captivity and help free all the kids. And now it's a race to save the parents as the giant chicken is about to be hatched. The adults are doing the chicken dance. Sheen steals one of the Yokian ships and runs it into Paltra, knocking him over in the arena. Goddard snatches the mind control remote and they start escaping back into the stars, but the Yokian's armada is sent after them. They manage to take out most of the ships thanks to the power of the sun before a final confrontation with King Goobot, who begins to mock Jimmy for his small stature. But Jimmy has an ace up his sleeve, hopping on the back of Goddard, charging right up to Goobot's ship, using his shrink ray, but to do the opposite of shrinking, which is growing. So now there's this massive Jimmy Neutron, and he sends their ship right into an asteroid, destroying it. And then the cooking egg yolk what's left of the king vows that he will one day get back at Jimmy Neutron, which we will see in the show. Sorry, spoiler I guess. The parents are all saved. Everyone makes amends and learns their lessons and makes it back to Earth to do more scientific things another day. And that's the movie. I love it. It's a great introduction to Jimmy Neutron, the cool science experiments, gadgets, and ideas he has. It genuinely is a fun time, and again, that soundtrack is so good. Aside from my other examples, you have We Got the Beat by the Go-Go's. Parents Just Don't Understand. No, not the Will Smith version, but the Little Romeo version. Blitzkrieg Bop from the Ramones. Bowling for Soup for the theme song. You also have artists like Britney Spears, the Backstreet Boys. Heck, Aaron Carter didn't just have one, not two, but 3 songs on the soundtrack. It was such a good curated group of songs that are just as memorable as the moments they are attached to in the movie. But while the movie was a success and it was smart to launch the show after the movie, it became a double-edged sword, as there was a planned sequel that they wanted to make come out in 2004, but because of disagreements on what the story should be, the real question of are kids even now interested in seeing Jimmy Neutron in theaters when he's on their TVs anyway? To that I say, yeah, they probably would. But regardless, we still got a 3-season show and a spin-off show beyond this movie, so let's take a look at the show itself.
Jimmy Neutron will be right back on Friday Night Nicktoons. Now, back to the adventures of Jimmy Neutron, Boy Genius.
I'm tired because of the nightmares. Horrible, spooky things chasing me. I run, but I can't get away.
When Pants Attack. So Jimmy Neutron started with a banger of an episode, bringing you right into the world of the weird for the series. Jimmy comes storming in on his robo-walker with Carl in the backdrop of night when Carl gets launched out of his pants to test out the ejection feature on the device, which sparks Jimmy to remember that he just never picks up all of his identical pants, that no one should have this many pairs of. For him to be allowed to go see the new hit movie in theaters with his friends, he needs to have his room cleaned and his pants fully put away. But when his mom says pants don't pick themselves up, Jimmy comes up with the idea of nanochip-based pants that would do it themselves. But it would have taken a fraction of the time to just, I don't know, pick them up. But we need a plot, and this one really gives us the first real taste of how nanobots or nanotechnology, nanochips, you name it, always are a bad thing in this show. So Jimmy proves to his parents that the pants can now hang themselves up, so he's allowed to go to the movies now. But something is happening in Jimmy's closet. The nanochip is malfunctioning, and you know that this can't be any good. In school the next day, Miss Fowl gets pantsed accidentally, but the students have to give some presentations to the class. And of course, Jimmy's pants go haywire and start having a mind of their own. So now Cindy and Jimmy are at odds like usual, but now both their pants, as well as Carl's and Sheen's, are going wild until the pants rip off of all their bodies to go and cause chaos. And now they gotta track down those loose pantaloons, especially before the nanochip is able to affect the other pants at a town shop where pants can take over the world. Some Aaron Carter starts playing as a reminder of how great the movie soundtrack was. Jimmy brings out his clothespin sharpshooter to clamp down the evil pants, but they fight back. Also, Hugh catches a charge.
Howdy, neighbors! Hey, I got 2 words for ya!
When things get dire and Jimmy's pants start taking over all the other pants in the store, Jimmy reworks some washing machine parts into a robo-walker to aid in the fight, as Cindy is single-handedly kicking some fabric-based butt. Hugh's interrogation of regular non-infected pants is probably the best comedic moment in the first episode. Classic Hugh. Jimmy has his defining brain blast trait and uses static electricity to short-circuit the nanochip. And while he does end up winning the battle, he can no longer go to the movies until he picks up all this pants. I don't know why this episode was ever hidden by Nickelodeon and not included on streaming services. There's a few episodes like this that are just omitted, but regardless, it's a fun episode to start out with, so welcome to Jimmy Neutron, I guess. Normal Boy. Now, a lot of season 1 and a good bit of the rest of the series have episodes that have 2 segments rather than one story for 22 minutes. So much like this one, we are going into the different segments themselves. Here in this segment, Jimmy just wants to show off his new juicer and is going to make some simple orange juice. juice, but instead it sucks in a bunch of kitchen-based apparatuses that leave the kitchen destroyed and for some reason shoot a bunch of the items into space. Okay, you know, it's an annoyance, but nothing that is unfixable, is what you would think if the objects thrown into space didn't hit an asteroid that now is knocked into a collision course with Earth, and more specifically, Retroville. But regardless, it's an extinction-sized meteor that can destroy the world. But before anyone is aware of that, Judy isn't too happy with Jimmy, uttering that she wished he wasn't such a little genius sometimes, and he is dismissed to head to school. During a science presentation, Jimmy casually outshines everyone in the class, making Miss Fowl disregard a lot of the other projects from the students, causing the rest of the class to hold this resentment towards Jimmy, and him always one-upping them. Adding in the principal telling the class that Jimmy's test scores were the highest in the world. All of this really gets to Jimmy, as while he has all this love for science and is really smart, he doesn't like how his ideas affect others or how he is perceived by his peers. He decides that he is going to live a simpler life by draining his brain, only to a more normal level to fit in. But in Jimmy Neutron fashion, it malfunctions and it ends up draining his brain to the most basic functions. And as he is in class the next day, others start taking notice of how unsmart he has now become. And when they all realize a meteor is now barreling towards Earth, everyone is panicked. Aside from Jimmy. Now, when the people in power come asking Jimmy for help to stop the meteor, he tries to do his signature brain blast but ends up laughing at Funny Monkey. And to be fair, it is a funny monkey.
Funny monkey.
Carl spills the beans about Jimmy draining his brain, so Cindy has Carl and Sheen bring her to where he did this, and they are able to reverse the brain drain and bring him back to the normal smart version of Jimmy he was before. So he gets in his rocket and is able to repel the meteorite back into space because of science. Look, I'm not Jimmy Neutron. I don't know what you want from me, okay? I can't explain what happened here. Cindy then looks to Jimmy to help give her some credit for helping in the situation, but Jimmy says, nah, I don't know you. Our trio then emote on everyone by doing the loopy dance. Birth of a salesman. Don't you wish that rather than reading a book, you can just download the knowledge from it? Well, Jimmy here has invented book gum, a way for you to chew a small book-looking piece of gum that grants you the full understanding of that book. But that isn't important just yet. In school, the class is going to take place in a candy-selling contest to raise money, and the winner of the most sold wins VIP tickets to Retroland. The biggest rivals in this competition are Jimmy and Cindy. The two do their best through their different pitching techniques, but alas, Jimmy is falling behind and can't sell like Cindy and Libby together are. Jimmy decides that he needs the top salesman to do this, so he invents the perfect salesman, Willie Loman 3000. He doesn't take no for an answer, literally. But things quickly go from good to bad, as to make these sales happen, Willie has been giving stuff away from Jimmy, like Goddard, his rocket, etc. This gets escalated until the salesman tries to sell Jimmy as a free incentive for the candy. Jimmy's quick thinking has him offer the salesman that book gum from earlier, which you can't chew more than one of at a time, so when the salesman eats it, he short circuits, and the winner of the contest is a tie. Both Jimmy and Cindy tied and now have to go to Retroland together. Now, I know I'll say this at some other points of this video, but I just love this show. It's very rare that I don't view an episode as a classic or something that I can't recall from memory pretty well. These two segments are both very nostalgic for me. A lot of season 1 was packed with heavy hitter episodes, but at the same time, I guess the rest of the series is as well. Brobot. Jimmy needs some help testing another one of his inventions, but both Carl and Sheen are too busy to help him out. Feeling lonely, he notices Butch playing at the park with his younger brother, causing Jimmy to have the want for a younger sibling. So at dinner, he lays down the facts to his parents that he wants them to get busy getting busy, so he can have a younger brother. So while that really led to nowhere, Jimmy is going to do it himself if he has to, and by that I mean him building and putting together a robotic brother. He powers the robot up and dubs him Brobot, and immediately asks Jimmy what he wants to do. Jimmy is so proud. He finally has a brother. His parents are both parts accepting and questioning Jimmy's new brother, and I guess their new son. Finally now, Jimmy has someone to test out his new inventions with, first being a super pogo stick where when Brobot tries it, bounces all the way around the moon and back and asks Jimmy to go there, and that's what we call foreshadowing. Later on, Carl and Sheen come around and meet Brobot as we see how much more perfect at activities over Jimmy he is, and Jimmy starts getting upset that Brobot is getting all of this attention and praise over him. But like, my guy,
if I was in the lane I was supposed to be in, it wouldn't be.
Creation is. But Brobot also impresses Cindy and Libby and ends up going to hang out with them as Jimmy becomes left out of the group. Heck, even his parents are taking well to Brobot over Jimmy. This starts festering into a hatred for his own creation, his own brother, as Brobot gets more and more on his nerves as the time passes. Jimmy hits a boiling point where then he nearly tries to shut shut down Brobot, but his emotions get the better of him and he hesitates to do it. But his tear accidentally triggers the deactivation and Jimmy is torn up about it. He's crushed at what he's done, but it's fine. He was built indestructible, so literally things are fine. And in the interest of Brobot and himself, he builds Brobot robot parents for him to live with on none other than the moon. And now Brobot lives a nice life and Jimmy can visit him anytime. It's very wholesome. The big pinch. Jimmy's best trait, or his biggest red flag, is constantly messing with the will of the universe, and this episode is no different. Him and Cindy are arguing, like they usually do, this time regarding the invention of the radio. So to prove that he is right to Cindy, he shows up with Thomas Edison, literally ripping him from his time in the past to modern day. Oh Jimmy, why do you never calculate the consequences of your actions? After Thomas backs up Jimmy, he quickly gets preoccupied with Miss Fowl and goes off on a day date with her. Jimmy is keeping an eye on this as he still has to return Edison to the past, but things start happening. Weird things, like the jukebox at the candy bar disappearing and power outages are happening. Knowing that he needs to get him back to his time immediately and break up this date, he does whatever he can to do so, but nothing is working, and Edison has no interest in going back because of his infatuation with Miss Fowl. But luckily, Miss Fowl tells him that he needs to go back to his time, but man's really tried proposing to her after a few hours together. Nice try, Lomas Edison. Miss Fowl rejects the proposal though, so Edison willingly heads back to the lab with Jimmy and is sent back home. This is one of the lighter on plot episodes that is so basic and so quick to get through that they always feel like a nice little palate cleanser and look into a random regular day in Retroville. Then there's Granny Baby. Jimmy is being babysat by his grandmother, but the rules quickly get reversed when Jimmy sneaks a potion into her medicine bottle to help her experience youth again, to stop her from describing all the problems with getting old and having health issues. That all goes wrong when after she drinks it, she doesn't just get her youth back, she turns into a full-on baby, one that can talk, where now Jimmy has to play babysitter and take care of his grandma. A bunch of shenanigans ensue, and it's another fun episode in the vein of the last two, having less ideal situations to be in with a wrapped-up situation swiftly covering everything up. Through the help of the main cast of friends, they are able to get Granny to drink the antidote to turn her back into her regular self, just as Jimmy's parents pull up back to the house. And of course, Carl has to do what Carl does, so naturally when thirsty, drinks the antidote, thus aging him into an older man who now goes and dances with Jimmy's grandma. Forget Jimmy's mom, it's all about Jimmy's grandma now, right Carl?
I'm really thirsty.
Time is money. Jimmy is a simple, smart dude. He sees knowledge to learn, and by gosh, does he want to learn it. So after seeing a commercial for a 1,000-volume set of infinite knowledge encyclopedias, he goes to ask his parents to get it for him. And at first, they seem pretty into it, until they find out that the price is...
Oh, my. Well, thank you anyway.
That's too much for them to commit, and if Jimmy really wants the set, then he needs to go and get a job to pay for it himself, by working at McSpanky's. Just kidding, that's a later episode's plot. Here, he goes back in time around 15 years to convince his dad to invest in McSpanky's, and then reap the rich benefits of it in the future. Once they do so, they end up back in the modern day to realize that the plan had worked, and his parents are now filthy stinking rich. Complete with golden duck statues and all, their house is now a palace. But things aren't as great as they seem, as Hugh and Judy are both very different. They are snooty, stuck up, and look down on those who don't have wealth. They even care more about the stuff and money they have over their own son, bribing his poor friends to leave the house, kicking out Goddard and having their servant bring Jimmy to his room. But hey, things aren't all that bad, because when he looks in his room, all 1,000 volumes of the encyclopedias are there, which is what he really wanted all along, so that's a win in my book. But what good is getting what you want when your parents are completely different people now, who love their money over you? Jimmy regrets what he has done, heads back to the past again and undoes the damage, returning back to the present where everything is normal again. And hey, in the end, his parents decide that since these are educational books, that they would put aside other things that they were saving for, like a vacation, to get them for him. But Jimmy ends up telling them that he doesn't want the books anymore, but thanks them for caring enough to make that gesture. It's actually a really sweet little episode about the value of things that matter most versus material wants, and I just really enjoyed how it was all portrayed. Y'all like lima beans? I sure don't. It's not for the taste, it's not for the look, it's simply the fault of an episode of Jimmy Neutron. The episode I Dream of Jimmy from season 1 took us into the mind of Carl. Due to his increasing nightmares causing him a lack of sleep, Jimmy, the boy genius he is, uses one of his inventions to enter Carl's dreams and nightmares to help find the root of the problem. In parts of the dreams, we see that Carl sees himself as the boy genius and Jimmy as the not Boy Genius, even going as far as to use him for a show and tell moment for the class that puts Jimmy in an electric chair and shocking him. Only problem is he feels the real pain of it. You die in the dream, you die in real life.
You're in a dream.
This also makes me think that there is some underlying jealousy turning into hatred within Carl's subconscious that is being portrayed here. Like, Carl, I know you're into Jimmy's mom, but that doesn't mean you need to torture and eliminate Jimmy over it. We later find out that the root of Carl's nightmares is his fear of lima beans. Yes, lima beans. Underneath Carl's bed in the dream is a small anthropomorphic lima bean playing a harmonica. Nothing too worrisome, right?
That is not correct.
As Jimmy turns his back on the lima bean to reassure Carl that it's just a little lima bean, behind him we see that same little lima bean eat the harmonica and grow in size, turning into a full lima bean monster that proceeds to chase them. This is why I don't like lima beans. Seeing this when I was a kid terrified me to my core. The eyeless, sharp-toothed monster lima bean gave me nightmares. I vowed back then to never eat or in fact ever acknowledge their existence as real food until making this video. Let's just hope I can sleep tonight. The rest of the episode is filled with weird and wacky moments within the dream to help Carl realize that he's dreaming so that they can escape, but once they do escape, the lima bean follows them out of the dream portal and continues the chase, until quickly being crushed by a large hammer, then in an oddly gruesome way being shown cut up and ate. Yeah, that's something to think about. The episode left such a large impact on me for the horrific lima bean. I'll never forget it for that reason. When I think back on Jimmy Neutron, this is one of the top episodes that comes to mind just because of that fact alone. And hopefully I don't have to say lima beans another 87 times. Raise the Uzi Scab. Okay, this one really is a classic. I feel out of any episode of Jimmy Neutron, this had the most reruns on TV, and I have seen it so many times. But I'm seeing it again now, so let's talk about it. Miss Fowl is tossing the class a partner-based marine project where Carl and Sheen have partnered up, and Libby has partnered up with another girl in class, Brittany, for material reasons, leaving Jimmy and Cindy partnerless and now forced to work together by Miss Fowl. So when it comes to doing the actual project, Jimmy is going to find the treasure of the Uzi Scab, an old sunken pirate ship, as he then shows off his submarine. Where did he get this? Did he just build this himself? Probably did. He went forward with this idea in hopes that Cindy won't want any part of it, but she's in, and so is Carl and Sheen for reasons. In order to find the treasure, he needs help tracking it down underwater, so he whips out his Gilgab 9000, which allows him to speak and understand fish. But this proves not to be as helpful as he thought, and Cindy pulls the mutiny card and everyone on board ties him up. It's a nice friend you got there. Cindy, of course, is able to find the Uzi Scab pretty easily, right until they are stopped and caught by a giant squid that holds the submarine captive. Everyone is scared and they need Jimmy's help, but of course he's playing it petty and needs Cindy to admit that he is smarter, nicer, and an all-around better person than her, and she ends up doing so. But the Gilgab isn't working on the squid as it was meant for fish only. So Jimmy takes one of Carl's fish snackums that have freeze-dried squid in the ingredients. So by the laws of science, he can use it now to be able to speak to the squid. Don't question the logic, just roll with it. The communication with the squid works. He helps them get the treasure and they all make it out alive. But once they reveal the treasure inside the chest, it was just some saltwater taffy. Which, hey, I love, so I wouldn't be too mad at that, I guess. But while being disappointed, they still got an A+. Jimmy on ice. You know, I'm just your average fella. I don't like it when it's too cold or too hot. Jimmy and the rest of Retroville are dealing with a pretty hot summer that everyone is dreading as they go through it. Cindy and Libby are fine though, as they have a pool and aren't willing to share unless the boys admit that the girls are better than the boys. Well, we all know that they aren't going to do that. So Jimmy starts getting to thinking all smart like, noticing that Carl is applying sunblock. So why not create a strong enough sunblock that doesn't go on your skin, but instead goes into the atmosphere? And hey, it worked. Things cool off and it even starts to snow. How could this go wrong? Everyone seems to be happy, aside from Cindy, who thinks his antics are pretty pathetic. Libby, on the other hand, goes and joins the others having fun in the snow. But while things seemed okay for the moment, the next day the temperature has dropped severely and the heights of the snow is piling up. It's time for Ice Age 2, and we aren't talking about the movie. Also, because Ice Age 2 was called The Meltdown, clearly that's not what's happening here. Everyone in town starts going feral, acting like they're all cavemen, and try to sacrifice Jimmy at one point, but Carl ends up coming in handy once again based on the comment about his perspiration and learning that the sunblock isn't waterproof. But when you really get to thinking about it, snow is just water, technically. Why wouldn't the snow work just as well as sweat? Well, I'm not the smart one here, Jimmy is. So he gathers the sweatiest people in town and has them run to produce enough sweat to reverse the sunblock's effects and stop the new Ice Age. Well, that didn't work. Disney made a 6th Ice Age movie for Disney+. Okay, I'll stop with the Ice Age jokes now. The weather returns to normal, everyone is happy about it, but now they have to deal with the awful odor of body sweat. At this point, can I even try thinking logical about this science stuff? Because I don't think you can. Battle of the Bands. So I shouldn't be fucking Jungle. Another episode that I really like a lot personally. There's a talent show coming up, and our trio here are coming up with what they plan on doing for it. Jimmy's all like, hey fellow students, listen to me do algebra and Latin, and Carl wants to blow bubbles, and Sheen wants to spit water. Okay, well, you know, all of these sound so entertaining, I couldn't pick which one I'm most excited for. Cindy and Libby are doing this river dancing number, which they give them a little taste of, but Jimmy on the spot puts together an idea to tell the girls that his band is going.
Breaking news, this may be the best article I've read all day. Donald Trump supporters flipping to Kamala Harris in new CNN poll. Now, VP Harris has had a stellar first few days of her campaign. She raised $86 million in grassroots donations within the first 24 hours of announcing her run, and that quickly exceeded $100 million. She's also been endorsed by a bunch of congressmen, by a bunch of governors. Her campaign is off to a great start, and this new CNN poll shows her competitive with Donald Trump. Keep in mind, CNN polls are high quality, they are A+, and her odds of beating Donald Trump are already better than Biden's, even though we still have an uphill battle to fight. But leave a like on the video if you're ready to fight that battle. This article reads, Vice President Kamala Harris is winning over some of former President Donald Trump supporters, according to a new CNN poll. Harris is viewed as the frontrunner to win the Democratic presidential nomination. She basically is the presumptive nominee. She will be the nominee after President Biden withdrew over the weekend, following weeks of pressure from Democrats concerned about his ability to win in November in polls showing him behind Trump in key battleground states. But with Biden's endorsement, Democrats quickly rallied around Harris, who has appeared to secure enough delegates to officially become the nominee at the Democratic National Convention next month. Harris, like Biden, has trailed Trump in the polls for months, but her supporters argue she is more capable of running a robust campaign that could win over swing voters while increasing the already mounting Democratic enthusiasm, and polls are showing the exact same thing. Keep in mind, these polls are all from VP Harris not having campaigned at all, or maybe having campaigned for one day. Some of these polls were taken when she'd only done one rally. But as she campaigns over the next few months, as they pour hundreds of millions of dollars into ads in key swing states showing that one candidate is a prosecutor who takes down criminals and the other candidate is a criminal, then hopefully people start to rally around Harris. Several new polls this week suggest a tight race between Harris and Trump, and that Harris may already be pulling stronger numbers than Biden. We have seen that in every single poll so far. The pattern is Harris is outperforming Biden. A CNN poll released on Wednesday found that Harris is gaining some of Trump's supporters, though the former president continues to hold a lead overall. The poll showed Harris trailing the former president by only 3 points, 49 to 46. Still, the poll found that 95% of Biden's supporters are continuing to stick with Harris, while she is winning over 5% of Trump's former supporters. Trump is winning over a smaller number of Biden's former supporters, according to the poll. 3% of those who previously backed Biden are now supporting Trump, who retained 92% of his past supporters, which is honestly an incredibly high and disappointing number for a candidate who literally tried to coup the government of the United States, who literally pressured different government officials into finding votes. The fact that he only lost about 8% of his voters and that 5% are now voting for his opponent, it should be 50% if we were living in a working country. Harris is winning 94% of Democrats, while Trump is winning 91% of Republicans. I do want to note, Harris winning 94% of Democrats is already better than where Biden was at. I just want to reassure you guys, they are doing well. We are doing well now. However, he continues to hold a narrow lead among independent voters 46% to 43%. The poll, conducted from July 22nd to July 23rd, so just over the past few days, surveyed 1,600 registered voters. I want to read you guys this poll. New poll: Harris improves on Biden's performance against Trump. An early look at new matchup. The likely 2024 presidential election campaign between VP Harris and former President Donald Trump begins with no clear leader, but we do know that Donald Trump is regretting picking J.D. Vance. I'll finish that article about the polls in a second, but notice how awkward and forced the dynamic is between Donald Trump and his VP pick, J.D. Vance. He is absolutely regretting it, and he's going to start losing in the polls if they keep having clips like this released.
We've always had a good chemistry, and originally J.D. was probably not for me, but he didn't know me. And then when we got to know each other, he liked me maybe more than anybody liked me, and he would stick up for me, and he'd fight for the worker as much as I fight for the worker. We just had an automatic chemistry.
I absolutely doubt that. There's no chemistry. J.D. Vance has no charisma. It is not working how Trump wanted it to work. Trump holds 49% among registered voters nationwide. These are nationwide polls, which are different from swing state polls. Those are more important. To Harris's 46%, a finding within the poll's margin of sampling error. That's a closer contest than earlier CNN polling this year had found on the matchup between Biden and Trump, and that is the big highlight this video. That is the headline. Harris is already outperforming Biden. God bless him. I love Biden. The survey finds voters widely supportive of both Biden's decision to step aside and his choice to remain in office through the end of his term. Democratic and Democratic-leaning voters are broadly enthusiastic about Harris, as we've seen online, and willing to coalesce around her as a new presumptive nominee, even though they remain deeply divided on whether Biden's Democratic successor should seek to continue his policies or chart a new course. The poll, conducted over the past few days, July 22nd and 23rd, surveyed voters who had previously participated in CNN surveys April or June, both of which found Trump leading Biden by 6 points in a head-to-head matchup. So now when we introduce Harris with the same exact group, she has a better chance. Checking back in with the same people means that shifts in preferences are more likely to reflect real changes over time and not just statistical noise, because again, we're using the same exact control group. And the new poll finds some critical movement in these early days of a Harris-Trump race. Keywords right here, early days. We are in the early days of the Harris campaign. She has barely even started. She's going to start relentlessly holding rallies, town halls, calling into news stations, going into the Lion's Den, hopefully going on Fox News. I hate Fox News as well, but it's really important for candidates to speak to the other side, to speak to the middle of the aisle voters, or voters who may have a preconceived notion that doesn't fit reality. A lot of people think VP Harris is always just laughing and weird, but she is very good. She is a very good public speaker. Half of those who back Harris in the new poll, 50%, say their vote is more in support of her than against Trump. That's a dramatic shift compared with the Trump-focused dynamic of the Biden-Trump race. Among Biden supporters, just 37% said their vote was mainly to express support for the president. So that shift in enthusiasm right there is absolutely massive. I mean, hating Donald Trump does motivate some people, but actually liking the candidate that you're voting for motivates everybody. Everybody will go out and vote for a candidate if they genuinely like that person, and VP Harris is very charismatic. Biden's charismatic as well, but I think if we're all going to be honest, over the past few weeks, maybe past month or two, he's sort of lost that. He's been super defensive in interviews, and he hasn't been focused on this forward-looking message, this hopeful, charismatic, forward-looking message. VP Harris has exactly that. About 3/4 of Trump's voters, 74%, say their vote is to express support for him rather than opposition to Harris, but of course the Republican Party is a cult. That's an increase in affirmative support for him compared with the June CNN poll, 66%, which came before the assassination attempt and the RNC. So now they have rallied around Trump even further and say they want to express support for him. The poll finds Trump's favorability rating ticking up to 43%, higher than it's been since 2020 in CNN CNN polling. The poll also suggests that Trump's support among his strongest groups is holding steady even as his opponent changes. 67% of white voters without degrees support him over Harris, near identical to his support against Biden, 66%. He continues to hold the support of a majority of men, 53% versus 54% with Biden, and he maintains the support of about 9 in 10 Republicans and Republican-leaning independents. Well, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button. Most importantly, have a great day yourself.
I'm here with Mr. Beast, the brilliant mastermind behind some of the most popular videos ever created. Do you think you'll ever make a video that gets 1 billion views?
I think maybe one of the videos we've already made might get 1 billion views.
Which one do you think?
Probably like the Squid Game video with enough time. I mean, it's only a year old and it's already on 300 million, or some of the newer ones we've done have gotten like 100 million views in a month. So those 4 projected over 10 years, because YouTube's not going anywhere. Probably one of those.
So over time, they don't necessarily plateau.
What's interesting, we were literally jumping right into it.
I
love it. It's good. So I'm a firm believer that it's much easier to hypothetically get 10 million views on one video than 100,000 on 100. And part of why it's much easier, in my opinion, is like if you make...
Breaking news, this may be the best article I've read all day. Donald Trump supporters flipping. Breaking news, we just received a bombshell report titled Donald Trump now facing memory lapse concerns. And this article goes into detail about how Donald Trump has been exhibiting steady signs of cognitive decline over the past few months. He's been switching up the names of important people. He's been going on long tangents where it seems like he's playing a game of word association. He'll be talking about sharks, then he'll talk about electrocution a second later, and none of it ties together in a satisfying way. So I think we need to reframe this entire campaign about Donald Trump's age. This article reads, Donald Trump is facing increased scrutiny over apparent memory lapses in the wake of Joe Biden pulling out of the 2024 presidential race, according to a prominent academic. And remember, Donald Trump is now the oldest candidate to ever run for office in the history of the US, and we cannot let people forget that. In fact, we should keep reminding people every single day, every single second of every single day. Twitter had some hilarious reactions really quickly. Sock Done Left said, fact, Donald Trump is the oldest presidential nominee in U.S. history. Does America really need a sleepy 78-year-old rambler as president? Leave a like on the video if you think that Donald Trump is too old to run the most powerful country in the world. Alex Cole said, guys, come on, this is elder abuse now. Why are Republicans doing this? Trump is too old. I really don't understand the rationale behind nominating somebody so old. Obviously, I say that as a joke. We nominated President Biden, but that is the framing we should be using. Donald Trump is indeed too old. Jeremiah Johnson said, I agree with Elon Musk. Trump is too old to be chief executive of the United States. Elon Musk said in 2022, Trump would be 82 at end of term, which is too old to be chief executive of anything, let alone the United States of America. If DeSantis runs against Biden in 2024, then DeSantis will easily win. He doesn't even need to campaign. And then Elon Musk turned his back and endorsed Donald Trump and said he would donate $45 million a month. Then he turned his back again and said, wait, I'm not going to donate $45 million a month. That's crazy. Alex Cole said Trump is too old to be president. He should step down. Don't you agree? And keep in mind, Republicans only talked about President Biden's age for years. In fact, that was the center focus of Donald Trump's campaign, and now they've kind of lost their footing ever since VP Harris has entered the race. They don't know how to attack her without being racist or sexist. Check out my latest video. Also, check out my VP Harris shirts. The party is just commencing. The link is in the description, but I think that we need to center our campaign around Donald Trump being too old in a similar way that Republicans did with President Biden. We need to compare Donald Trump, his old rambling speeches, versus VP Harris's youthful, vibrant speeches that she gives that are actually amazing. And before I break down this report, keep in mind, if we're going to talk about gaffes at rallies, then Donald Trump is the king of them. He has forgotten people's names so many times. I'll play this 3-minute video from Midas Touch, but this article article reads, the video begins with a recent Trump gaffe, wherein Trump challenges President Biden to a test for dementia that he claims he aced. While challenging Biden, Trump forgets the name of the White House doctor, calling Ronnie Jackson Ronnie Johnson. From there, it's off to the races. He calls Senator J.D. Vance JP Mandel. He calls Matt Gaetz Rick, and more. I think Tim Apple might be my favorite one.
I think you should take a cognitive test like I did. I took a cognitive test. And I aced it. Dr. Ronnie Johnson. Does everyone know Ronnie Johnson, congressman from Texas? He was the White House doctor. How good did Elise Stefanik? You know, we've endorsed Dr. Oz. We've endorsed JP, right? J.D. Mandel, and he's doing great. Jimmy Connors is good. He's also happy.
Jimmy Connors, I mean, we haven't even gotten to the worst offenses. Donald Trump has called Nancy Pelosi Nikki Haley and vice versa, and Biden Obama and vice versa. So, the main report, Donald Trump now facing memory lapse concerns. Donald Trump is facing increased scrutiny over apparent memory lapses in the wake of Joe Biden pulling out of the 2024 presidential race, according to a prominent academic. Heather Cox Richardson, author and professor of history at Boston College, wrote in her Letters from an American Substack that there are already signs that there may be more attention paid to Trump's parents now that focus will not be on the 81-year-old president. After Biden ended his re-election campaign on Sunday, Trump, 78, became the oldest presidential nominee in U.S. history. If Trump wins November's election, he could overtake Biden as the oldest ever sitting president during his second term. Despite only being 3 years younger than Biden and also prone to gaffes during public speaking, Trump had not faced the same level of public concern or scrutiny that he is too old or mentally unfit to run for office of president. Heather Cox Richardson suggests that recent reports from CNN noting Trump saying he doesn't know who said he would consider JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon as his next Treasury Secretary, despite saying this in a Bloomberg News interview earlier in the year, means that Republican looks could face increased scrutiny about his cognitive ability going forward. Remember, there are also reports that Donald Trump couldn't remember a journalist only a few weeks after talking to that journalist. He's also forgotten many other things and had all of those name switches, as we just covered. Quote, his lack of visibility highlights that the Republicans are now on the receiving end of the same age and coherence concerns they had used against Biden, and there might be more attention paid to Trump's lapses now that Biden has stepped aside, Richardson wrote. CNN's Kate Sullivan today, for example, noted that Trump said he'd considered Jamie Dimon for Treasury Secretary, but now he says he doesn't know who said that. On Tuesday, Trump denied that he ever said that, but he absolutely did. Quote, I don't know who said it or where it came from. Perhaps the radical left, Trump wrote on Truth Social. However, as noted by CNN, the claim appeared to have come from Trump himself, telling Bloomberg News in an interview published July 16th that he had a lot of respect for Dimon and that he is somebody I would consider as future Treasury Secretary. VP Kamala Harris, 59, is now the presumptive 2024 Democratic nominee after Biden ended his re-election campaign following weeks of pressure to drop his bid. And what we need to understand is a lot of people vote based off vibes. They had the vibe that President Biden was too old, therefore he was losing the polls and President Biden dropped out. Now we need to make sure we are pushing and reinforcing this vibe that VP Harris is youthful and energetic, because she is. There are countless clips. We just need to make sure that people are seeing these clips. People are digesting these clips and understanding that she is incredibly qualified and experienced, and then also reframe it. Always talk about how Donald Trump is too old, too old, too old. Despite the switch at the top of the Democratic ticket, Trump has continued to attack Biden's mental and physical fitness. That is all they have. Something he had been doing throughout the 2024 campaign, targeting the president for his decision to remain in office through the end of term. Quote, does Lion Kamala Harris think Joe Biden is fit to run the USA for the next 6 months? I really think Trump has lost his kindergartner name-calling instincts, because Lion Kamala Harris doesn't have the same ring to it as Crooked Joe Biden or some of the other classics. But remember, even though VP Harris is in a way better position to win than President Biden was in, we are still fighting an uphill battle, and by no means is this election over. We still have a few months to go, and we have to spend those months mobilizing. Make sure you join your local Democratic chapters. You can door knock, you can even phone bank or donate. There are so many ways you can make your voice heard heard in our democracy. I mean, even engaging on YouTube, commenting, making sure you're part of a community is a good way to push our democracy forward. Either way, if you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you leave a like, comment a blue heart, hit that subscribe button. Most important.
Yeah, here we go, guys. This is the shareholder meeting, okay? We all have shares. Everybody in the American public, taxpayers, we all have shares in Israel. So we're gonna have the state of where our money is going. Here we go. Let's go ahead and see what this guy's got to say. I'm a shareholder. I am too. I invested a lot of money this year. Holy fuck. A lot of money. I hope he's using my money fucking well. I hope. Well, if you like blowing up hospitals, then I think that your money is going to the right place. If you don't like people that hide in hospitals, then you're in the right place. I mean, I really like. I'm gonna be honest. I really could give less of a fuck about what happens in Israel. Like, I'm sorry. And I think it's really fucking annoying that, like, the U.S. pays so much lip service to some random fucking country on the other side of the world. It's such a waste of our fucking time and money. Holy shit. Like, imagine if we could get everybody together to virtue signal about how much importance helping the people that are living on the street has. Right now, how about veterans that don't have access to medical stuff? How about that? Who gives a fuck about this bullshit? Who cares about, oh, wow, Israel. Who cares? Get the fuck out of here. Like, Ukraine is no different. I know people don't like Ukraine either. I can understand why people. It was old Mitt Romney. Haven't seen him for a bit. And I'm much more of a fan of Ukraine than Israel. Like, in general, I'm a supporter of Ukraine. In general, not in general, pretty much entirely, I'm not a supporter of fucking Israel. One is defensive, the other one isn't? Yeah, I think so too. Like, Ukraine isn't blowing up hospitals in Russia. Not yet? Yeah, but when they do, then I'll say that Ukraine's bad. How about that? How's that sound? You want to agree with that? The U.S. fucked itself by rooting itself in the conflict. I think that a lot of the times that the reason why people are like a lot of Congress people are afraid of criticizing Israel is because it gets turned into anti-Semitism. It's because of, like, the original sin of the Nazis. Stop. That, by the way, well, I wouldn't really say we, to be honest. Russia fucking stopped. A big portion of that is because of Russia. But, collectively the world came together and stopped them, right? So, like, if anything, that's not us, that's not, we fucking had a war to stop that shit. Russia? Yeah. No, bro, like, Hitler tried to march on, like, Stalingrad and shit like that. No, that totally fucked their forces up.
Little girl.
It's not even a question. Absolutely.
Stop. Literally...
USSR did 76. Yeah, they did a lot.
Are you gonna be my...
Russian
you can't
Winter's
be in my
Cold?
face. Stop.
You're
I'm
uninformed.
literally playing a game that is, like, kind of hard.
I'm saying World War II was won by British intelligence, Soviet blood, and American steel. I mean, everybody played a part. I'm just saying that, like, obviously, I think it was a major strategic mistake for Hitler to go into Russia. If you ask any historian, they would probably say the exact same. Any normal person would say that was a huge mistake. It was a mistake. Napoleon did it too. How'd it work out for him? Not so good, huh?
How?
It's really fucking cold. But anyway, I think that's why people don't criticize Israel as much, is because they're afraid of getting labeled an anti-Semite or something like that. Who cares? Congressmen care.
I guess I should start fucking rushing Landry's and fucking Death Cab.
The Prime Minister of the State of Israel.
Did everybody just become a professional League of Legends player when I fucking left? Like, this is fucking insane.
When is this gonna stop? Is this like a loop? How funny would it be? I can't. This is actually.
Members of Congress, I now have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you His Excellency Benjamin Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel.
Didn't they introduce Palpatine like that? They did? That's what I thought. Yeah. This is such a disgrace, bro.
Thank you. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Senator Ben Cardin, Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Senators, members of Congress, distinguished guests. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me the profound honor of addressing this great citadel of democracy for the fourth time.
I didn't vote on this. I don't know what you're talking about democracy for.
We meet today at a crossroads of history. Our world is in upheaval. In the Middle East, Iran's axis of terror confronts America, Israel, and our Arab friends. This is not a clash of civilizations. It's a clash between barbarism and civilization. It's a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life. For the forces of civilization to triumph, America and Israel must stand together.
I need to text my accountant. I need to make sure we have enough money for this.
Because when we stand together, something very simple happens. We win, they lose.
Of course, because we're a like a worldwide superpower, and Iran and Palestine is like nothing. Duh.
And my friends, I came to assure you today of one thing: we will win.
That's the problem. What are we gonna win?
Ladies and gentlemen,
what do we win?
Like December 7th, 1941.
Holy fuck.
And September.
I have a disgusting clip from Fox News to play for you, and this is going to begin a series of segments that I'm sure we're going to have to do rather often leading into November and after November as well if Kamala Harris wins, which is, hey, look at the disgusting attacks against her. Now, before I play this for you, I want to just really make sure you're clear. If you're someone who is worried that people will wave away all attacks against Kamala Harris as just racist or sexist, know that there's a difference between real policy critiques, even personality critiques, about a candidate, and obviously, overtly, we'll call vile, uncalled for, and then the particular version of that we can specify as we go along. And I'm very mindful of when I use these terms. It's not just any attack, oh, that's sexist. When you hear this, you're gonna know what I mean. And it's more about diving into the substance of why this is insane, and less so just trying to end a conversation with it, because I know people get upset when you do that, okay? So we're going to handle this correctly, but look how disgusting this is from a Fox News host. Let me tell you the name first. Alec Lace.
And there's the DEI press secretary telling you that the DEI vice president is the future of the party here. And so the future looks kind of dim for the Democrats here, but this is no shocker either. Kamala Harris